Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the NXTGEN Season 3, or known in full as the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. This is the series that puts out the question, who is the master of the front-wheel drive front-engine machine, and who indeed is going to be able to manage the art of understeer and handling throughout 10 rounds of racing to bring home the ultimate prize, which is the crown of the NXTGEN series. Sponsored by Douglas Motorsport, this series has gone from nation to nation, and as it travels globally, it continues to see our drivers impress. And today we're here in Germany at the Nürburgring GP-Strecke, but in particular the Sprintstrecke layout of it. Indeed, it's one of the shorter layouts and focuses on the top half of the circuit and cuts down the corners from what was a grand total of 16 to in the region of 11. But besides that, it keeps all the core elements which will put our drivers to the test. We have plenty of direction change with the corners coming in quick fire sequences. We also have two extended straights, so our drivers need to get back onto the throttle as soon as possible and to be able to charge into the next heavy braking zone and battle on the brakes. And of course, with those braking zones, we have the daring, we have the audacity from our drivers to battle side by side and look who can come out on top. And indeed, it's all going to come down to fine margins today as we have 3 races for you. You're tuning live, of course, through one of our free media channels, the 2 official Next Gen Racing channels, either on YouTube at youtube.com and search for Next Gen Racing. Alternatively, you may be on Facebook right now, and welcome to you as well. And you're on facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. Lastly, we do have a Twitch channel as well, and that's at twitch.tv/TX141. And who is TX141, I hear you ask? Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141, or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll be bringing you all your racing action today, and indeed for the remainder of the series. And what a series it has been thus far. But coming on to today, of course, or tonight we should really say, let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Times in British Summertime, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1, UTC +1. When just under 18 minutes time, we'll be making our way into the qualifying session. Now we'll be 15 minutes in duration with all of our drivers out of the circuit and looking to do their utmost in order to achieve the best possible time, albeit I think track position may be key here, but not as pivotal at other circuits. And after that, we'll make our way into our first race of the day. All 3 races are sprints, all 3 of them are 13 laps in duration, and the first one will be at 8:45 this evening, where all the drivers will take to the circuit angle for the first time and see who can come out on top. After that, we'll take a brief breather before return at approximately what will be 9:25 for the build up to race number 2, and then we'll have another brief breather, but not without doing the reverse grid draw, of course, first, and then we'll be back at approximately what is 10:05 for the final race of the day. That's race number 3, which of course always gets extra dicey because it is the final one on the schedule for a given round. But as we get ready to go racing, of course, let's take you through our schedule thus far in terms of the season and what still lies in wait as well. And as you can see here, we're now at the end of the first half of the season, and this holds a special place in the minds of our drivers because of course after this we have a mid-season break lasting 1 week. And going into that mid-season break, you want to be on your best possible form because, of course, you want to carry that momentum into the second half of the season and really get in the head of your rivals. But in the run-up to this, we started off all the way back on the 18th of April at the Silverstone circuit. Our drivers raced around the international layout there, and what a thrill it was in the United Kingdom. Indeed, we're filled of approximately 52 drivers taken to the circuit. There was more drivers than there was room on circuit in qualifying, and the battles we saw really set the tempo for the remainder of the season. Then round number 2, we made our way to Italy for the Imola circuit, and indeed there on the 25th of April we got to see our drivers had to battle with the straights and also the chicanes and make sure to keep the car pointing in a straight line. Indeed, for some it was difficult, for others they were able to be sublime and pull away with great results. Then round number 3, we made our way to the Canadian Time Motorsports Park in Canada, or what we like to refer to as Canadian Thruxton, because it's the closest thing to the British circuit of Thruxton on the iRacing simulator, and that was on the 2nd of May, and then we got to see the prominence of the Audi RS3s in particular and plenty of batting on the straights. Then last time out in round number 4, we made our way to the United States of America for the first time this season, and in particular to the state of California for the Long Beach Street Circuit. And now on the 9th of May, we got to see our first street races of NXTGEN history, and what 3 brilliant races we had. Yes, we had a couple of incidents. We had a safety car in Brown in race number 3, but on the whole, it did lead to some absolutely brilliant racing. And did we carry that forward to today with round number 5 at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. For today is the 16th of May. After the break week, we will return on the 30th of May for round number 6th of 10, and that'll be at the Alton Park circuit in the United Kingdom, and no touring car calendar would be complete without a visit to Alton Park, and particularly the island layout. And then round number 7, we're making our way back to the United States of America, and we do it Texas style in the state of Texas for the Circuit of the Americas on the 6th of June, before following up in round number 8 at a circuit which many already are absolutely hotly anticipating down the paddock, and that is Sandown in Australia, the home of horsepower, the circuit which is all about 2 short straights connected by a multitude of sweeping corners. Indeed, there we are going to see some absolutely terrific battling on the 13th of June before we make our way to the United States of America for the last time, for the third and final time, and that'll be on the 20th of June for round number 9 at the Sonoma circuit, just north of San Francisco in the state of California. And our drivers there will be looking to try and settle the score before they make their way into the season finale back in Germany, and that'll be at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg circuit on one of the national layouts on the 27th of June. We've still got plenty of racing to go, but indeed the calibre has been so high, and I say it week in, week out, but it is ever so true. I wonder how high we can truly go here, given the style of racing that we've seen from all our drivers thus far. And speaking of our drivers, of course, let's give you an update on the championship standings going into this round. And we should point out that in terms of the championships, we've decided to remove the pro classification in terms of the championships going forward. You only now have the overall drivers' championship and the prime drivers' championship. And this is to align more closely with the British Touring Car Championship style of pointage, whereby you have the overall classification, and then you do have things such as the AMS or the Jack Sears Trophy classification as well. So you'll see overall and prime classifications from this point onwards, but of course you will see pro-AMs out on circuit, and you also see pros out on circuit. We have not removed those for the purposes of distinguishing our drivers when they're going racing, but as we can see currently it's the pro Jamie Dorey who leads overall by only 2 points over Andrea Romi. Romi was able to close the delta last time out at Long Beach, but Jamie Dorey was able to hold on despite the success ballast in the car, and that means he'll be carrying maximum ballast once again going into tonight. And indeed that ballast has proven to be quite to the detriment of any driver who carries that 51.6 kilograms. Then P3, it's Dale Mulqueen. The pro there continuing to go from strength to strength, and only 6 points off of the top. Indeed, tonight could be the time he takes the top of the standings going into the mid-season break. Meanwhile, Alan McCain and Sam J. Smith, only a point between the two of them, P4, P5, with Marcello Reales, Andrew Pye and Rafael Lobato all over 80 points, and the same for Martin Shirley. But with that top 9, you can see we have got 9 drivers separated by 19 points, and this championship is wide open in this round. And indeed, we're not expecting it to become ever close, ever slow rapidly, in the fact that all our drivers right now absolutely charging for points. And well, who is going to be leading come the end of tonight? That will be the challenge. Francisco Melo in P10 there. He wraps up the top 10 with best the rest Daniel Homer only a point behind in P11. And it's Mikey Doble in P12 finding some form at Long Beach. Indeed, the last 2 rounds have been kind to Mikey Doble. And can he continue to find those points today? With Adam Delton there, P13 and 73 points. Having difficulty over the first half of the season thus far. And can he try and put some of those difficulties aside tonight going into the break, given the fact we are expecting him to try and move back into the top 10. John Higgins Jr. in P14, once again finding rhyme and rhythm at Long Beach, and may that continue with Joseph Dole on P15. And then we do have Gavin Garner at P16 on 58 points, only ahead of Marco Benatelli based on result countback. Andrea Talasco, our first pro-am there, you can see it in P18 on 52 points, 2 clear of Wayne Douglas, with Reese Watt completing the top 20 on 40 points. Behind them in P21, we then do have Alex Meredith, only a point off of the top 20, with 4 points to Dario Raffaetta, and it's Linus Broström, James Holman and Michael Lees running down to P25. Isaac Dolan, P26, continuing to build that form, is the prime driver for Doble Sim Racing, and we're expecting him to potentially break his way into the top 25 today, with Paul Scott there in P27, 4 points clear of both Lee Horn and Luke Jones. Ivan Bullcamp, P30, with Benjamin McCluskey just outside the top 30 in P31 on 8 points. And then on 7 points apiece, it's Bernardo Colbe, Daniel Feder, Nick Clemens and Robert DeSunic, with Matthew Addy on 6 points there in P36, and really struggling in the first half of the season. It must be said, the reigning prime champion, with James Mansquez-Gao in P37 ahead of Massimo Boni. And then yet to score any points in the championship, it's Gabriel Yilmaz, Jackie Chalmers. They complete your top 40. And still to go, we also have Jake Pitt, Jonathan Collins, Josh Brown, Mark Aerosmith, Mark Sykes, Matthew Cheverton, Matthew Jolly, Melvin Eckerson, Michael Kurtler, Paolo Maniti, Phil McDougall, Sebastian Bruberg, Tom Bingham, Costa Chastacontinantinu, Dylan Flanagan, Philip Bruberg, Chris Byram, Daniel Fritz and Marcello Felix. And we should point out with Chastacontinantinu all the way through to Felix in P54 through to P59, they all have negative points due to points deductions after racing stewarding decisions have been applied. But then we come onto the Prime Championship, and what we can see here, the complexion is a little bit different. Linus Broström leads the way in what is 130 35 points. P1 by an advantage of 26 points over Lee Horn. It was an opportunity at Long Beach for Brewstrom to really deliver, and he absolutely knocked it out of the park, particularly in the final race of the day. In race 3, we picked up his first class win of the season. Lee Horn in P2 continues the fight, albeit the challenge will be for him to stay ahead of Reese Watt and Isaac Doble, who are close on his heels, with Michael Lease not too far behind. If Horn's able to do so, perhaps he'll be able to close the delta to Brostrom. Alternatively, will he find himself falling further and further away, and it becomes a more focused battle for P2 rather than a battle for the championship lead. Outside the top 5, a further 10 points behind, but continuing to build that form is Alex Meredith on 89 points, equal to Paul Scott, but ahead of based on result countback. And then we have Bernardo Colbe and Derek Rafaeta on 84 points apiece, P8, P9, with Luke Jones completing the top 10. The JW Motorsport driver may not be stealing the spotlight compared to his teammate Reese Watt, but he's in with the fight. And then Robert Dasunik outside the top 10 there, best the rest in P11 on 67 points. He's 7 behind and only 3 clear of Andrea Talasco, who's ahead of Matthew Addy based on result countback. It's Nick Clemens and Benjamin McCluskey who complete the top 15, with Matthew Cheverton and Phil McDougall P16, P17 on equal points. And then it's Daniel Fedder, Ivan Bolcam and Jake Pitt who complete your top 20. And as we look outside the top 20 of our primes, to P21 is James Vasquez-Gow, who's 4 points off and starting to build a little bit of form. James Vasquez-Gow, he's had some difficulty in the first 3 rounds, but Long Beach seemed to start coming his way, with Chris Wire on P22 ahead of Mark Sykes, Massimo Boni and Palomiti. Jonathan Collins P26 on 12 points and continuing to fight for those scraps towards the back of the field, but enjoying the racing all the same. And then we do have Marcello Felix P27 ahead of Josh Brown, with Michael Kurtler P29 based on result countback behind Brown. And then yet to score any points, Gabriel Yilmaz P30, Matthew Jolly P31, Melvin Eckerson, Sebastian Bruberg, Tom Bingham, and then on negative points due to post-race stewarding verdicts, Daniel Fritz, Philip Bruberg, Costa Chats Constantinu, and Dylan Flanagan. That completes your 38 drivers in the Prime class. Now coming on to the Teams Championship, meanwhile, we can see here it's Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport who continue to lead the way, but they're only 5 points ahead of Meredith and Lobato Racing Group. Indeed, there with the withdrawal of Chemical E Motorsport, Meredith and Lobato Racing Group have come together there, and that is Rafael Lobato and Alex Meredith, and therefore those two right now in the hot seat to challenge down the championship leaders. Only a first 16 points behind however, and do not count them out, of VRGT Racing Team, and their drivers are looking absolutely feisty as ever, with iRace Esports also in the hunt there on 174 points and 11 clear of GRT Esport. You can see the Sim Racing Collective, in turn, only with 6 points off of the top 5, and they're staying right in the fight with Double Sim Racing in P7 ahead of Synergy Fortis Racing, and it's Bright Eastbourne RD Sim Sports there who complete your top 10. And from the 80-point team of RD Sim Sports, we can see there what is a further 37 points behind. It's Next Gen Racing Yellow, best the rest in P11, ahead of JW Motorsport with Next Gen Racing Blue on 18 points, and starting to find some points on the board, and it's Cuda E Motorsports ahead of Aztec Racing. Yet score any points, P16, Performance Link Esports, and the same for Charles Flanagan Racing and Biff Hornet and Epic Collective. But as we come onto our circuit for today then, is none other than the Nürburgring Grand Prix-Strecke, Sprintstrecke layout, and located near the city of Nürburg in the state of Rhineland-Palatinate in Germany. This circuit, as we said earlier, focuses on the top half of the full GP loop. As you can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing, and thank you to them for the wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it, this is a circuit that really focuses on the technical aspects of your choice of car, with your ability to manage direction change, also rotation under braking, and also that ability to return to full throttle as soon as possible without the risk of understeer in the case of touring car racing class machines. For as our drivers make the way down the start-finish straight in towards turn number 1, it'll be the downhill braking zone into the Yokohama curve hairpin, and as they come down hard on the anchors, they descend through the apex curve before charging their way up into the Mercedes Arena, also known as the AMG Arena. Going into turn 2, it's all about balancing it on the brakes and trail braking to apex before getting back on the throttle and bringing that throttle to bear without understeer kicking the car wide and off the circuit. And as they come downhill into turn number 3, it's a very late apex and a heavy braking zone there where they want to try and go as late as possible to the apex to set up the line for turn number 4. A quick switch back from a left-hander into a right-hander, and as they exit turn 4, they'll then make their way down the short straight in towards the hairpin at turn number 5. Quite an open hairpin compared to most of this circuit, and therefore we're going to see quite a few battles into turn 5, but very quickly our drivers will need to get themselves over to the right-hand side of the circuit on exit for the Ravenhall curve at turn number 6, the left-hander, which then sets up the run into the right-hander of Bilstein curve at 7, again direction change at its prime, and they'll make their way out of turn 7 on the run down through the kink of 8 at Advent Bogen, before breaking their way into turns 9 and 10, known as the slow version of the Vidal chicane, and there we could see some battling under braking, but also many a dry hand to come a cropper of the curbs. But survive that, they'll then make their way out to the Hyundai N curve at turn number 11 to complete the lap and start it all over again. Now, to give you a reminder of the race rules, of course, we start off with the fact that this is a fixed setup series where setups are provided by Next Gen Racing ahead of each round to our drivers. The driver classes were finalised as of round 3. So any changes to driver class at this point onwards, they will be by exception and not the norm. And we can report that going into tonight, there are no driver class changes whatsoever. But we do have some new drivers to introduce. Now, sprint race-wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying. The race 2 grid shall be set based on results of race 1. So the winner of race 1 starts on pole for race 2. And we work our way downwards through the result order. And then the race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid based on the results of race 2. Albeit with the caveat that the reversal position shall be drawn live from the commentary booth between P13 and P23. For the uninitiated, we cut over to the commentary booth and I will be doing the lottery draw. We'll be picking a number between P13 and P23, and whichever number is pulled out of lottery bolt, that's where we reverse the grid from. So if we take the number P13, that means the 13th place finisher in race number 2 will be starting on pole for race number 3, and we work our way upwards towards the winner of race number 2, and they'll be starting P13 for race number 3, and the 14th place finishers and downward to race number 2, well, that's exactly where they'll start on the grid for race number 3. Now in each race shall have one fast repair available, and each race will conclude after either the allotted lap amount of 13 laps or 30 minutes, and we are expected the laps to go first unless we have multiple safety cars, which will see us go to the 30-minute mark. Now on top of that as well, we should point out that there is race stewarding in effect, and an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car. In terms of those penalties for track limit infringements, they'll be distributed as follows. The first through to third warnings, there's no penalty, they're just a warning. The fourth warning shall see a 5-second post-race time penalty applied. The fifth warning shall be a 10-second post-race time penalty. And the sixth warning shall be a drive-through penalty, which must be served within 3 laps of being awarded. Now, race incidents shall be reviewed post-round, and shooting verdicts shall be applied post-round as well. And as for also the success ballast, well, let's just give you a quick reminder, is that success ballast is applied to the top 10 drivers in the overall Drivers' Championship based on the standings prior to each round. And this is before post-round penalties are applied, and as you can see here, the success ballast is being applied as follows for this round, and Jamie Dorey retains the 56.1 kilograms of success ballast, with Andrea Romi there on 48.2 kilograms, very close between the two pros there at the top of the standings. Meanwhile, finding himself with a bit less success ballast going into today, we can see there Martin Shirley on 8.7 kilograms and Francisco Miller on 4.7 kilograms as well, down in 10th place. But one driver who's definitely going to have to fight against the ballast in P3, Damon Mulqueen on 40.3 kilograms. He's fought his way all the way up to P3 in the championship, but now the change will be, can he hold on to it and make further progress with the weight holding him down? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Well, you've waited long enough to go back to live pictures, and we appreciate your patience, but we make our way on back, and there's a refresh of the rules and whatnot, but you're here for the racing, and so are we in the commentary booth, and as we do see there, Reese Watt making his way up towards the Vidal chicane, getting himself nicely on through there. We say hello to a good number of you in the respective chats, including, what is that, Alex Meredith, who says this will be some close racing in the YouTube chat. Also, Revical there saying, come on, let's get some good racing in. Indeed, I love the enthusiasm there. Revical, do keep that up. We also say hello to Handsome Stu there, who says, good evening all, and you're looking handsome, Stu, I must say, from your profile picture. We also say hello to Dan M there, who says, good luck, RD Simsport. Indeed, we do have some drivers from RD Simsport competing in this series, albeit that's not one of them. That's the Bright Esports driver of Daniel Holmer, but he makes one around in the 79 Audi RS3. As he charges his way down towards turn at number 5 and onto the brakes very shortly. We also say hello there to Will Barrington, who says, let's go racing. Indeed, Will, let's go racing. We also see Scully in there cheering on Alex Meredith. Indeed, fan favourite there, Alex Meredith. And we do love to see that support. And we also see John Meredith there, the father of Alex Meredith, saying, go for it, Alex. Good luck, my boy. And we also say hello there to Costa Transcontinentino, who says, I'm way off the pace. Well, Costa, even if you're off the pace, stay in it and keep that smile going. And the fact you never know what you may pick up here. We are expecting there to be quite a high threshold of battles, and you never know, some drivers may end up falling off the circuit, and those are the places you can pick up, is when you're at the back and you're not quite in the fight, but you end up picking up and capitalising on the fighting that goes on up the road. But as we do see our drivers here getting set and ready, only a minute to go in this final practice warm-up session. All of our stewards are in place, our invigilators are in place as well, so everybody absolutely itching to go here. Indeed, it is expected to be a fantastic day in Germany today, and we do have some newcomers on the grid, including for the Sim Racing Collective, Josh Millington. And you'll see here in the number 40 Honda Civic Type R, he'll be competing in the Pro-Am class as of this round. And we've assigned him the Pro-Am class based on his iRacing rating, and also previous information we have about his pace in the touring car class. So we wish him all the best luck on his debut, and he'll be joining the likes of Andrew Pike and company, and also John Higgins Jr. And well, it's not just about Josh Millington being a newcomer, we do have another newcomer as well, and that is Neil Ferrier, albeit I believe at the moment Neil may have this time be in the pit lane. We'll try and get eyes on him when we can, but he'll be competing in the Pro-Am class, as we do see the RD Simsport machine of Martin Shirley in the number 5, making his way there through turn at number 8 very shortly, albeit coming through 7th first. Neil Ferrier in the pit lane at the moment, I'm led to believe. And there is Neil Ferrier, the 4XR Ferrier Sim Racing driver. And he, from Scotland, will be racing in the Hyundai Veloster there. An interesting choice, racing effectively as an independent in this championship. And we look forward to seeing how he gets on in the 91. But everyone absolutely itching to go. And well, as they do, well, we look back to Josh Millington here. And you can also tell Millington's car, given the fact he does have the prominent lights. But that is the practice session all done and dusted, ladies and gentlemen. And well, it's time for us to head into qualifying and see how our drivers get on over 15 minutes. But as they all get set here, and we do just load on in, and I believe all of our data now is in place. Qualifying is underway, and our drivers make the way on out. And who is going to be the one to take pole position come the end of it? Well, let's see. As Jamie Dorey, the first driver to make his way out of the pit lane in the number 13, and then NXTGEN Racing with Douglas Motorsport driver immediately getting out there as the lead car, albeit I think letting what is there the number 5 go. And well, as we do see the RD Simsport Honda Civic make its way on through, I think Dorey right now trying to wait for potentially some of his teammates to catch up, and indeed this could be a little bit of a team game here in terms of teams having to use a bit of slipstream in order to aid one another. Now you may be wondering, okay, so what can we expect in qualifying? Is there a particular car that's expected to go better than the others? Well, what we've seen from the final practice session as of yesterday, and also the initial warm-up session, it does look as though we are going to have quite a mixture in terms of the cars that are right up there. Of course, we have 4 TCR class machines available. The Honda Civic Type R, you're looking at one of them right now, it's piloted by Adam Delman. You've also got the Audi RS3, and you can see one here being piloted by Reese Watt, the Brown driver. We've also got the Hyundai Veloster. We saw Jamie Dorey in one of them earlier as he's making his way on around, and we also have the Hyundai Elantra, as we do see there, Rafael Lobato making his way on through and in towards turn number 7. Now, Elantra has always been the one-lap pace car in this season. We've typically seen it go very strong at the start of races, only to fall off towards the end when tyre degradation becomes a factor, particularly when the track temperature is in excess of 40 degrees centigrade. But here today, well, what weather do we have firstly, I hear you ask? We'll just take a look at that weather for you, and it does look as though in terms of our weather, we have a weather of 35 degrees track temperature and 18 degrees ambient, so it's quite hot. But so the Elantra will be feeling a bit of a pinch when it comes towards the end of the race, particularly on the last couple of laps. It may feel those front tyres start to wear away, but it's not overly hot, and therefore our Elantra drivers can really hammer those laps in qualifying. So we would expect the Elantras to be right up there in qualifying, albeit that's not to say the Honda Civics in particular can't go well here, given the fact it is the handling car out of the quartet of machines, and also the Veloster being quite close with a jack of all trades, master of none nature. The Audis, meanwhile, we think they may struggle a little bit, given the fact they are more focused around straight line speed instead of cornering, albeit they can go through corners quite well, but not as well as particularly the Hondas. We do see Costa Constantino there going up the inside of one of the double sim racing drives, and that's the number 29. He just made his way on through it, and the two of them trying to sort out which way they want to go in the order. And as they make their way through, that's Joseph Doble. He's decided to pick his way on past there. And I think for Chance Constantino, he's just trying to give himself a bit of room to play with, albeit they're going very deep into turn number 3, and he's going to yield that immediately. And I think both drivers there will feel a little bit impeded, as we do see Mikey Doble also clearing the number 28 Audi. As they head on around, we'll very shortly start to get our first lap times on the board, and we'll have to wait and see what those times are going to be, albeit we have got some drivers running by themselves a bit further on around, including Daniel Holmer, who heads towards the timing line, and as Holmer comes on through, he goes on to his first flying lap of this qualifying session, and we will get some on-board laps to our drivers a little bit later on in the session, giving us the fact that, of course, we do let them get their tyres up to temperature to a degree, and also their brakes up to a portional temperature, and that way we do not get a reference lap which is heavily marred by cold conditions of the car, but instead they can go at full attack. But as we see there, what is Greg He, or I believe Jen He in the Twitch chat, who is cheering on Mikey Doble and saying that because of the same as a member of their team at Tiki Simsport of John Doble, those lap times are starting to come in, and Mark Sykes making his way down towards turn number 1 there, and he sets the bar as a 37.5 to be precise. The rumour is down the paddock, it's 36s are the way to go in qualifying if you want to be on pole overall, but as we do see Sykes making his way through the AMG arena, I think he'll be very pleased with that to start with, as we also say hello there to Bernardo Colbe, who in the YouTube chat is wishing on both Rafael Lobato and also Alex. We also say hello there to Rai Daho and also Royal Kebab, who are cheering on and wanting to see more of Costa Constantino, and we'll definitely see a little bit more of that later on in the qualified session. But as our drivers all head on around here, we look to Matthew Cheverton making his way out the final corner and down the start-finish straight, getting a bit of a distant tow off of the number 31 car, the NXTGEN Racing Veloster, as he powers his way across the line of McCluskey, and will Shepperton go as P10 on the 38.143, but given the fact we do have at the moment a grand total of just over 40 drivers in attendance, and we've only got 20 laps on the board, I suspect this grid is going to shuffle a lot before we finalise those qualifying standings, and Shepperton makes his way through turn number 2 in the 390. Definitely right now feeling as though there's the pace building in the series, and we have seen this at Aztec Racing over the course of the season. They really struggled in the opening 2 rounds, were not on the pace, but they seem to have regrouped since round 3, where they started to show signs of attacking the bottom end of the top 10 in the Prime class, and it's great to see the team really now fighting for those top 10 positions in the Prime class there and giving themselves every opportunity. And another member of the team, James Spanskes there in the Hyundai Elantra, also finding that form, and as he makes his way on through what is their turn number 4, yet to get a lap on the board, but meanwhile one tried to get a lap on the board, and it's the fastest lap so far. It's newcomer from 4XR Ferrier Sim Racing. It's Neil Ferrier as he makes his way down to turn number 1. The 91 Veloster definitely flying high at the moment, 3 tenths faster than everybody else, but you can see those times continuing to trickle down, and I think it's only going to be time where we even potentially see a 35 appear on the board, given the fact we're already at the 36.349, and our drivers will be burning fuel out of their cars rather rapidly indeed. As we see Rafael Lobato making his way through turn 3 into 4, where he's getting himself set, and very shortly we will be getting on board with one of our drivers in terms of a flying lap, and we are going to see who we can pick up going towards a lap very shortly, as we do look to the boys Josh Millington, a newcomer today, as he makes his way on down. In fact, we jump aboard with Josh Millington as he takes us around for a lap of the Nürburgring circuit in the Prime Honda. Then down towards turn number 1 and braking there just before the 100 metre board, braking very sharply indeed as he now makes his way through the right-hander, and as he comes out the right-hander and up towards turn number 2, gradually creeping the car into the left, and you can see they're balancing the throttle before powering out and heading down towards 3, letting 2 wheels run to the entry curve there. He can't put all 4 wheels off, otherwise that will be an invalidated lap. As he comes through 3, nice tight apex, keeps the car to the left for 4, turning in second gear and power out here. Use the runoff area to your advantage. Heads down towards turn at number 5. He'll look to his left-hand side for a brake marker, and that'll be at the 100 metre board, braking about 80 metres from corner apex. Let the car roll deep, drops down to first from 4th gear very quickly as he exits out. Now makes his way up towards turn at number 6, and going into the corner there. Allowed to use a little bit of the runoff space on the right-hand side, but not too much, otherwise our stewards will be calling him out for it. As he comes down to turn number 7, nice early apex, then gets back on the throttle in 3rd gear, and you want to use all the track width when you leave turn number 7 to charge in towards 8 here. And this is where the Honda will be exposed, as it's got the straight line speed of its counterparts. But Millington right now on a smooth lap as he heads uphill towards Vidal and into the braking zone shortly, and braking out the 100 metre ball, coming down the gearbox, down to 2nd, and as he clatters his way between turns 9 and 10, straight line in the apexes, towards 11 he goes, into the Hyundai end curve and onto the brakes here, braking about 40 metres of corner apex, or 50 in some cases when they're on heavy fuel. As he exits the corner, it's going to be a lap for Millington, but what's it going to be? Well, it is a personal best that's coming on through, and he goes, well, it's P3 there on a 36.220, a nice lap for Millington. And I think there's plenty more where that came from as he comes down towards turn number 1 at once again, fastest prime currently as he heads into the right-hander. But as he comes on through there, we do look from him to what is there, Joseph Doble. And well, Joseph Doble has been one to watch out for. Of course, he and brother Mikey Doble running together right now, but Joseph definitely really building upon that late season form we saw in season 2, and right now flying the banner high for Doble Sim Racers. He makes his way through turn at number 8, and well, of course, if you're wondering why Doble Sim Racing are running slightly different cars from one another, and Mikey Doble there running some rather different colours, well, for the uninitiated, Mikey Doble competing in the BTCC Championship for 2023 in the real world of motorsport, and therefore he's running the same colours as he's running on the Power Max Vauxhall in the official series, so that's why you're seeing the different colours there. And indeed, it's a pleasure to see him taking to the tarmac, indeed switching from his real motorsporting responsibilities to his virtual motorsporting responsibilities and carrying on that momentum. But as he heads down towards turn number 1, he does go provisional pole, a 35.822, the first 35 of this qualifying session, and being buffeted there by the toe of his teammate, but immediately Adam Delmont responds there with a 35.818. It's only 4 thousandths, but indeed every thousandth is absolutely critical, and on top of that as well, Delmont really capitalising on that lack of success balance of the Honda bumper, and he's able to put it right up. And of course, that's what the success balance will do. It will really shake up the qualifying sessions from round to round, and also the pace that tries bring. And when I had the opportunity to catch up with Jamie Dorey in the build-up tonight, of course, he's running the maximum success balance at 56 kilograms, which we erroneously called out as 51.6 kilograms earlier on. Where he was saying to me about the fact he has to pick his rounds where he can actually race other drivers, and where he potentially just has to focus on bringing the car home and getting the results, being a bit more Colin Turkington, to use a phrase that he coined from back in season 1 when he did, of course, take the crown there. But with that focus, of course, for our Season 1 Pro Champion, Jamie Dorey, therefore it really does shake up the style of racing. And you can see Dorey right now as he makes his way there through turn at number 6 into 7, currently P15. And again, that weight being felt. But again, also just look at the deltas between the laps. The top, what is there? The top 25 separated by less than a second. And it's Gavin Garner in P26. But as we do look to Linus Brostrom making his way across the timeline with the Elantra driver heading on through, and well, how the difference a week makes in the fact he comes down towards the timeline and not quite up there at this time. And again, he's definitely been one of those drivers who's a lot stronger in the races compared to qualifying, albeit I think some of the qualifying sessions have just not gone his way this season. And as he comes through 1 into 2, we'll head in towards the Mercedes-AMG Arena. Right now, he's got a lot of work to do. He's currently P12 in the Prime class. And I think he'll feel as though the pace is not coming to him naturally as he rolls through the left-hander. But as he heads up towards turn at number 4, and meanwhile we look from him to Phil McDougall, the CXR Project Black Honda Civic Type R, perhaps the car that gets painted the most with regards to being involved in incidents, and not of McDougall's involvement in terms of him triggering the instance necessarily. He's just been in the wrong place at the wrong time typically. But as he makes his way through turn number 8 and up towards turn number 9 right now, McDougall definitely getting himself set, currently P38 and not quite up there on the pace. Indeed, P20 in the Pro-Am class at the moment. We do have a grand total, would you believe it, of 25 Pro-Ams and what is 18 pros out on circuit. It is an absolutely packed circuit out there, so much so I'm even noticing, I do apologise for this ladies and gentlemen, that our circuit map in the top right corner of the screen is actually struggling to keep up with the drivers making their way out around. That's a little bit of technical limitation, but it gives you a rough ballpark of where they are as they head on through. As McDougall crosses the timeline and down towards turn at number 1 he goes. Well, right now onto the brakes once more, and well, P33 is the best he's able to achieve thus far. But looking from one of our primes to one of our pros, we will very shortly be trying to get an on-board lap with one of our pro drivers making the way on around. And I think we may be able to get a lap with Rafael Lobato, currently P9. He's 4 attempts off of the pole lap in the Hyundai Elantra, and we'll get to see a rather different style of lap, albeit I think it's going to be a heavily compromised lap here as he makes his way past Jamie Dorey and also Gavin Garner there. Bit of a traffic jam into Hyundai end curves. They all come through. Car parked up there. That's why the JW Motorsport machines, I believe it may have been the car of Luke Jones. As Lobato comes out the final corner, we jump on board. He takes us around for a flying lap on the Nürburgring Sprintstrecke. Then down towards turn number 1, and what you're going to see the difference is the Elantra is going to be a bit more aggressive on the offensive into the braking zones, and braking at the 100 metres will come really rapidly down the gearbox all the way down to first gear as he comes out to the right hander up towards turn at number 2. Into left he goes, keeping the car nice and tight towards the corner apex. Now down the hill in towards turn number 3 and onto the brakes, and again taking a very sharp approach to the apex curve there in second gear. Get the car over to the left and bring into the right hander at turn number 4. Plateau over the apex curve, and now down towards turn at number 5 he goes. And as he charges on down into the braking zone, braking at about 65 metres, as late as you would dare to dream to brake into the hairpin, but hooks up nicely in second gear. Now up into turn number 6, bring the car over to the right, brake there at the 50 metre board, third gear, roll the car and use plenty of apex curve, and also use the whip board, bring it over to the left hand side for the turn into turn number 7, and coming through the Bilstein curve. Now it's flat out all the way up towards Vidal. As he builds up the throttle, this is where the Elantra will be quite strong. It's got a lot of straight line speed to it, loses out a little bit in the topmost gear compared to the Audi, but it is on parity for third through to 5th as he heads into the braking zone, braking at about 90 metres, low fuel in the car, really attacking, bouncing over the curves there, second gear, as you can see the suspension wobbling on exit as he makes way out towards turn number 11. Well, new pole lap for Mikey Doble at 35.689. Lobato comes through the final corner, improved in sector 1, didn't improve in sector 2, so it's all going to come down to the final sector if he is going to improve as he charges to the line. What's it going to be for Lobato? It's 9 improvement, he stays P12 overall, P9 in class as he heads down towards turn number 1. as he breaks his way on in here. Definitely right now, time running out, as meanwhile we can see Andrew Pike going P2 on a 35.768. Further drivers out there include Gabriel Yilmaz right now, currently down in P40. Well, he's one of the last drivers with a lap time against his name. Curtly yet to get a lap on the board. The same for Josh Brown, who's in the pit lane. So 2 drivers have not put in laps. Meanwhile, everybody else has put a representative lap in, and it is definitely looking as though Yilmaz and Jackson Constantino are both off the pace. Meanwhile, Curtler and Brown yet to show their pace as the session now heads into its final minute. But Josh Millington will right now fastest prime out there, P3, 1/10 off of the pole lap. And well, in terms of his clarity with regards to the gap to the prime class, that's Michael Lees there. He's currently got 8 hundredths between him and Lees down in P6. And how a single set of hundreds is the difference between P3 and P6. That is incredible, in the fact that Millington right now have a whole rose gap to Lees behind in P6 if things stay as they are. But indeed, we're about to head to the end of the qualifying session. The clock strikes 15 minutes 2 and 1, and there it is. Checker flag out of the qualifying session. Now all our drivers will need to get in their final laps, and that will be the end of the story come the end of it. And we've got more times coming in, including that Linus Broström crossing the line. He goes a 36.552, that's P28. Alex Meredith jumps up to P11 on a 36.095. Meredith absolutely nailing the lap in the end as he comes on through. We also see then Prince of Douglas, and well, he's gone to P7. We've also got the Bartow moves up to P10 on his final lap. Other drivers coming around include Daniel Fritz, and Fritz in P32 at the moment as the Whiskey Runners racing driver makes his way on around there. And as he crosses the timeline very shortly, what's it going to be for the Australian? I think it may be an improvement. Well, Jones improved, but Fritz did not improve. Meanwhile, Michael Kurtler has set a lap. He's left it late, but I believe it's a lap that's gone on the board, or has it? No, it has not gone on the board for Kurtler. And Shepperton's gone P32. We've got more drivers going around, including Daniel Holmer. Holmer on a lap. He's going to be one of the last drivers. In fact, he will be the very last driver to set a lap in this qualifying session, as we're hearing that meanwhile, and Michael Lees get it wrong coming through the Vidal chicane. And as they head up towards the braking zone, Reese Watt just in front here. It's the 2 Audis. They'll bring the rest of the field on through. And Watt currently P17 with James Holmer moving up to P15. But Watt gets it wrong, and that is going to release what is there. Holmer in towards the position, as we can see. Watt struggling to get back to the pit lane. Holmer's gone purple in sector 2. Is this going to be a huge jump? He's currently P10. This could be a major achievement. If so, personal best in sector 3. And what's it going to be? It's pole position for Daniel Holmer, the last lap of the qualifying session. It's a 35.654, and he takes pro and overall pole there. And my goodness, saving the best to last. He's embodied that statement, and he's absolutely nailed it in the Audi RS3. And we can see it's an Audi and Hyundai Elantra on the front row, and then 2 Hondas on the second row. We've got car variety right up there, and the Velocitas are not too far behind either, starting from what is the 4th row. But in terms of the Pro class, meanwhile, it's Josh Millington who takes Pro and pole at P4 and his debut in this series. And well, what a session it has been, as Garen Garner parked up there, and well, I think he's just waiting to be towed back to the pit lane, and very shortly all our drivers will be given the call to return to the pits before making their way out onto circuit for the first race of the day. But as we can see there, a grand total of 31 drivers within a second of the pole lap. It's going to be close into turn 1. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for race number 1. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they line up for the first race of the day. Daniel Holmer takes pole position for Bright Esports ahead of Mikey Dole for Doble Sim Racing. Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective and his teammate Josh Millington occupy the second row of the grid, with Josh Millington being your Pro-Am pole sitter, P4. There's Josie Doble for Doble Sim Racing and Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport to Adam Delman on the third row. We then have on row number 4, Michael Lees for Next Gen Racing Yellow and Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport's Wayne Douglas, followed up by Andrea Romi for GRT Esport and Next Gen Racing Yellow's Benjamin McCluskey. They complete your top 10. On the 6th row of the grid, it's Rafael Labarta and John Higgins Jr., followed up by on the 7th row, Alex Meredith and Martin Shirley, James Holman and Neil Ferrier on the 8th row, followed by Reese Watt and Melvin Erkison on the 9th row of the grid, and then where's the 10th row of the grid, it goes to Marco Benatelli and Gavin Gardner. On row number 11, Damon Mulqueen and Marcello Reles, followed up by Jamie Dorian and Alan McCain on row number 12. Row 13 goes to Nick Clibbins and Sam J. Smith, followed up by Mark Sykes and Linus Broström on the 14th row, and then row number 15 goes to Lee Horn and Isaac Doble. available. Row 16 consists of Paul Scott and Matthew Cheverton, followed up by row 17's Luke Jones and Daniel Fritz. Row 18 consists of James Manscapes-Gow and Phil McDougall, followed up by row number 19's Jake Pitt and Paolo Maniti. Jonathan Collins and Gabriel Umes complete your top 40 there on the 20th row of the grid, with Costa Chance-Continentanu and what is there Michael Kurtler, P41, P42 on the 21st row of the grid, and then Josh Brown will start last but not least P43 on the 22nd row. But that is the grid order, ladies and gentlemen, as we head back down to the circuit. Well, very shortly we will be lights out and away for our racing for today. And, well, we've only got a couple more drives to get into position. And who is it going to be? Who takes the first win of the day? Daniel Homer left it all to last minute in the qualifying session and he nailed it. But Mikey Doble not too far behind. And as all of our drivers are absolutely itching to go green, who is going to be the one who's leading come the exit of turn number 1? It's tight. It's going to be furious. And now we await the lights. One red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the first race of the day here at the Nürburgring Sprintstrecke. And Daniel Holman nails the start, but look at Andrew Pike. He jumps ahead and Josh Millington as well, with Mikey Doble stalling in the run down towards turn number 1. It's going to be 43 touring cars into one braking zone. Here they all go. And as they do, Millington there covering the middle ground, and immediately you can see how right now Mikey Doble trying to come back at him as they make the way through turn number 2 and in towards 3 they charge. But as they come roaring on through and down the round, Doble still on the outside under braking into 3. Millington coming off, and Andrew Pike being given the opportunity to try and break away in the hunt after Holmer. But as they come all charging through at West turn number 3 in towards 4. Meanwhile, we look a bit further back there, the focus on Gavin Gardner. As the next gen racer with Douglas Motorsport driver comes out of turn number 4 down towards 5, onto the brakes they go very shortly. Balanced side by side there with Marco Benatelli. Benatelli trying to go all in here versus the Audi driver, and Benatelli's going to be there, but he's going to compromise the run with a little bit of slide and lock up under braking. Cold brakes and cold tyres will do that to you, and as he heads up the hill towards turn number 5, it's going to stay as is, but as they exit the corner, in fact turn 6 in towards 7, now Benatelli's coming back on the inside into turn number 7 now through the right-hander and gets it all done versus Gardner. But as our driver's coming down, it's been a relatively clean start to race. Only one driver falling back down the order, and that's down P43 in the form of Josh Brown. Otherwise, everybody making it safely for the first half of the lap. As we look up towards Wayne Douglas here, under pressure from what is Joseph Doble behind into the braking zone, straight line into 2 apexes. And will Joseph Doble trying to find a way on through. But meanwhile, we've got a bit more battling. Oh, goodness me, there's a car off into the wall there. I'm not quite sure what's happened, but we've got a car in the wall, and that is in the run into Vidal. I believe that may be where's Damon Mulqueen, who's been sent all the way onto the grass. We've also got Jamie Dorey coming into the pits. There has been a nasty shunt for a couple of drivers, but as they make their way through the final corner into the end of the first lap, we've also got drivers going slowly there with slow down penalties. I believe one of them is Luke Jones, the JW Motorsport Elantra, going very slowly. But meanwhile, looking further back, Jonathan Collins here, balanced side by side with Phil McDougall, heading down towards turn number 1. McDougall's had the overspeed, but meanwhile onto the brakes they go, and as they hit the anchors here this time, we do apologise for the fact that it is our time time's a bit slow to update, but you can see that Jonathan Collins looking up the inside, can't quite find it versus Phil McDougall, and having to wait his turn. But as they come up through the left hand and down towards turn number 3, things will settle down for a brief moment, albeit I say that, and Alex Meredith right now trying to prove things a little bit differently, as Meredith making his way up and down towards turn number 5. He's got the pressure over Reece Watt behind, and Alex Meredith losing 2 places overall at the start of the race. Reece Watt comes in like an absolute rocket there and makes the return move versus Alex Meredith, and the Meredith and Lobato racing driver under pressure from what is there Marco Benatelli, but wants to come back at Reece Watt as they make the way out of turn number 6 and in towards 7. But into the right hand they go, and you can see there Benatelli getting impatient. He wants to make ground. He does not want to be stuck behind these Brian drivers. Meanwhile, circuit, and we've got Lobato there at the bottom of your camera creeping on through, and Alan McCain I think's had a brief trip on the road. In fact, that's Sam Smith who's with that. That's Nick Clibbens, I should say. Sam Smith going up the inside, or around the outside I should say, of what is his iRacing Sports teammate. But as they make the way up towards Vidal here, everything will calm down for a brief moment, and our drivers now all settling down as they head up towards the final corner once more. But meanwhile, Neil Ferrier getting stuck in here, battling with Martin Shirley. Martin Shirley on the outside there, Ferrier on the inside as they come out to the final corner. And down towards turn number 1 they go, and as they charge them down, well, who is going to be the faster one of the two under braking? And it does look as though it's going to be Ferrier who's got the inside line, but can he find a way to get this done? Side by side all the way through. The RD Simsport Honda's got the better brakes, but goes a bit deep, and Ferrier there will make it count, but you can see how Shirley's going to try and come back on the inside into 2. And as they make their way through the left-hander, Neil Ferrier does get ahead. It's a nice move, and he puts Shirley between himself and Melvin Erkison as we ride on board and look back for Neil Ferrier's car. as they make their way out of turn number 3 in towards 4 here on the third lap of racing out of 13. Drivers exiting the corner now, and Ferry getting a much better exit, just keeping it within track limits as well. Meanwhile, you can see there how Shirley under major pressure as they head under braking in towards turn number 5, and as they come through the right hander, they stay as they were for the moment, but head up towards turn number 6. I think those battles are going to start to intensify ever more as our drivers make their way through the left into right, 6 into 7, but coming on through there, this is the battle of where's effectively 12th place playing out on your screen, and as they make their way up towards turn 8 and 9 now. Meanwhile, we look back up towards the front and we can see it's Daniel Holmer still leading, albeit Andrew Pite and Mikey Dover right there with him. The battle for the lead continues to play out right in front of our very eyes here, and we don't be confused by the timing screens that appear there, ladies and gentlemen. They are a little bit delayed due to technical issues, which we'll look into after this race, but as they make their way out to turn number 11, Holmer leads after what is 3 laps of racing, ahead of Andrew Pite, followed by Mikey Dover P3, Adam Delmont P4, Josh Millington prime leader P5, then Wayne Douglas P6, Josie Dole P7, John Higgins Jr. P8, Andrea Romi P9, and Michael Lees completes your top 10. Benjamin McCluskey just behind him P11, but onto the brakes they go into the opening corner, and there Wayne Douglas trying to take a swipe at what was Josh Millington, couldn't quite find the space to go for the move, and as they come on out of the corner through turn 2 and down towards 3, we'll nose to tail race near between them, in towards the next braking zone they go. And you can see how Joseph Doble right now hot on the heels of Douglas, who in turn wants to get past Millington, and it is that long train of pressure. But meanwhile, speaking of pressure, here's a bit of pressure building for you in the fact that right now, the race leader, we're looking at Daniel Holmer under pressure. Andrew Pike, Pike's on the inside. He goes for into turn number 5, and Pike will lead as they make their way through the right-hander and up towards turn at number 6. And as they come through the left, it's a tap on the back for Pike's car from Daniel Holmer. But Mikey Doble now looking around the outside as they come into the right-hander at turn number 7. Tries to cut it back here, and Holmer in a rough place now. He wants to get a move on as we jump on board with the Bright Esports Audi as they head up towards turn number 10 as they charge up the hill, and you can see here how Holmer having to cover off Doble as we look back to the exterior cameras. Doble looking around the outside and in towards the braking zone, can't quite find it at the moment as they make their way from 9 to 10 and up towards 11, but so close. And as they head on to the brakes, well right now Mikey Doble starting to show pace, albeit I think Daniel Holmer's got other ideas about where his car's going to go, and it's going upwards rather than downwards. But as they make their way out of the final corner, one more lap in as they head up towards turn number 1 at 4. It's the 5th time of asking. Across the timeline they charge and head in towards the braking zone, and as they come on down this time around, will we see another move from Holmer on return on Pike? I don't think so. Meanwhile, Adam Delmont there in P4, keep your eyes on him. He's trying to find a way into what is the battle for Doble's P3, but as they exit the corner and come up towards turn number 2, we've got a bit of a gap building to Joseph Doble, who's 3.1 seconds back. This top 4 really breaking away, but further down the order, James Manscascal trying to get into the thick of it here, battling for what is P29 versus Jonathan Collins. This is the equivalent of P14 in the Pro class. Nice move there from Manscascal, the Aztec Racing driver, making a lot of ground since the start of this race. 6 places overall, 3 in class, and as he comes on through, meanwhile, Jake Pitt there under pressure from what is, I do believe, Daniel Fritz, who sees the doors open and says, well, don't mind if I do, thank you. And the Aztec Racing driver loses out where his teammate has just gained as they make their way through turn number 3 and into 4. Of course, these drivers battling further down, so they may not be battling for the victory, but they're battling for the points. Their lives depend on it. Every point is critical in the Pro class, of course, but as they make their way down towards turn number 5, onto the brakes they go. Well, it's going to stabilise for the time being, but this battle definitely not over yet, and I think Jake Pitt at this point trying to look for a comeback versus Fritz later on, given the fact we've got a long way to go. But as they come through the left into right, it turns at what is 6 into 7. Meanwhile, we look from them to a bit further up the order, and in particular, we look to Marcello Reles, and Reles under pressure here. Up his inside, goes Holman. The RD Sims brought on, the Civic goes for it on the brakes. Meanwhile, behind, and that is Nick Clemens, Pro-Am P7 driver, chasing after the 2 pros, and the VRGT Racing Team Honda, and Marcello Reles there really been hung out to dry through Vido, but as they head through the right-hander Hyundai and curve, coming on out now and up towards turn 1, they go once again. No way through or returning for Reles, as now he's got to try and focus on what's coming up behind him. Meanwhile, Daniel Holmer's dropping down the order. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Daniel Holmer. There's been some sort of incident of a description, and we'll try and find out what's happened very shortly for you. But Daniel Holmer has lost a lot of places, and I wonder if he's gone overly deep into turn number 1. We will try and get some replays of some of the earlier action when we can. But meanwhile, Marcello Reles is still under huge pressure, and Nick Clemens. Clemens right now, I think, trying to get a move on here. In fact, he's got Melvin Atkinson right behind, and Atkinson right now looking for prime position versus Clemens as they come through 3 and into 4. And as we look back here to Linus Brustrom and jump on board with the Hyundai Elantra driver, the Bright Esports driver makes his way out of turn number 4 down towards 5, and will not quite close enough to try and adventure a move here. But you see Clemens goes very deep. It's going to be close contact between the two of them as they come out the corner. Brustrom gets close, and as they make their way up towards turn number 6, this is going to be a dive to the inside for the Swede. He's going to seize upon it, and he overtakes his fellow countryman and moves up into P20 and what is P8 in the prime class there. Nice move from Linus Brustrom to capitalise on the mistake of Atkinson as they come down towards turn at number 8 now. And when I say the mistake, of course, that contact with Clemens not what he wanted, and it caused it to go wrong. Meanwhile, Clemens takes a very eclectic view of turn number 8 there and decides to run a bit wide, and as he does, hot on the brakes, grass on the tyres, Clemens just about gets it stopped in time. My goodness, the iRacing Esports Audi there absolutely having to hammer the brakes, and as they make the way on throw, well, nobody involved a major shunt over this lap, but we have had a couple of shunts earlier on, and the most notable one perhaps was what happened to Damon Mulqueen on the opening lap, and we are about to get a replay of what exactly happened to Damon Mulqueen because it has put him well out of the running, and of course P3 going into tonight in the championship, and here is what happened to Damon Mulqueen. Is making his way on the opening lap through turn number 8. Contact there with Jamie Dorey, and the two of them coming together, and Mulqueen having to quickly snap the car back off the road. Dorey to the wall, and that was coming through turn number 8, and that explains it. The Synergy Fortis racing driver and the overall championship leader coming to blows, and well, that's going to be a difficult one. I think that may go to the stewards later on today, but meanwhile, we look back to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen, and as our drivers head down towards turn number 5, we're hearing there Costa Transcontinental in the YouTube chat saying that he's had an issue with his racing rig, and that's why he's had to fall into the pit lane. And indeed, we have had one retirement for this race so far, and that is Transcontinental. Otherwise, all other drivers are on circuit, whether on the lead lap or a lap down. But you're on lap number 7 of 13 in race number 1 of round 5 of the NXTCC season 3. And as we look to the front of the field, well, Mikey Doe will now your race leader, but there is a story behind that in terms of what exactly happened and why Daniel Holmer fell out of the battle for the lead, and we'll very shortly get you a replay of what exactly set that off as they make their way through the final corner onto lap 8, which is the top 3 now of what is Doble, Pike and Delmont. As meanwhile, Andrea Romi's falling down the order. In fact, falling down the order quite significantly as our drivers make their way down towards turn number 1. Well, I believe there our overlay struggling to keep up with the drivers on the circuit map on circuit, and we definitely will see what we can do to fix that between races. But meanwhile, Adam Delmont there on the inside of Andrew Pye, a nice move, and the next race with Douglas Motorsport driver makes it look absolutely smooth as butter in terms of overtaking into turn number 1. And now his charge will be after Mikey Doble, and I wonder if Andrew Pye will try and come back at him, or whether he'll let Delmont try and lead the pair of them up towards the race leader. So it's a three-way fight once again. Alternatively, will it be Doble who's able to just break away? We'll have to see as they make their way down towards turn at number 5. But as they do, well, we take a look back at what exactly happened to Daniel Holmer only moments ago as the replay is coming up. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, as they made their way out to the final corner, and Daniel Holmer with a slowdown there. That will be for track limits coming through the Vidal chicane. Of course, the Vidal chicane does have some automated track limits which police themselves, and Holmer losing out as a result there as they made their way down the start-finish straight. And well, you can see Joseph Doble coming on through, John Higgins Jr. as well coming on through. So for Holmer, it was definitely a major wound to his charge in this first race, and indeed it's upset the apple cart after a brilliant end to his qualifying session. But we return to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen, and as we do, our drivers continuing on here with half the race, or just under half the race still remaining, and we're looking from the leaders back to Sam Smith in P25 as he makes his way up towards turn number 10. Into the braking zone here for Vidal and tucked in behind Alan McCain. But meanwhile, moves are being made a bit further back, including Alex Meredith right now trying to make some progress on Bellatelli, and that's happening for P14, and we'll cut to that very shortly as the drivers come through the final corner here. Sam Smith right now definitely, I think, just trying to run with McCain and carry the speed that he can. But as they head onwards towards the next lap, meanwhile, we do look to what is Meredith versus Bellatelli, and this is the prime driver currently in P15. as he heads up towards turn number 2 and into the braking zone here for the left hand. He's under pressure from Gavin Garner. Meredith wanting to get past Benatelli to go hunting after Reese Watt, but as they break the way on in here, and it's really the battle for P5 in the Prime class that Meredith wants to get involved in. But he's got to get through the battle for P14 overall first, as we do have our time towel there being updated a couple more times as they make their way down towards turn number 5. Well, Meredith doing everything to open up the corners here, using the full track whip to his advantage, and well, Benatelli goes deep, but Meredith will find himself on the outside going up into turn number 6, and he's going to defend hard as Benatelli as they come through the left-hander. No way through this time, but Alex Meredith definitely trying to put the pressure on as they come through the right-hander, and down they go. And Gavin Garner and James Holman are right there behind as we jump on board with James Holman here as he heads down the back straight in the RD Simsport Honda Civic Type R, and the 104 here in a wait and watch, and see Meredith trying to cover off Gardner. Gardner looks up the inside, and Holman not close enough to get involved in this, but Gardner goes all in. This is going to cost them all speed through the chicane. Now if Holman can time this right, he'll come right up the inside of Gardner. That's exactly what he does, side by side in the run up towards turn number 11. Onto the brakes they go, and Holman here going for P16 overall, P10 in pro class, and as they come out the right hand, and James Holman gets it done. It's a very great bit of opportunism, but now Garner will have the straight line speed in return. That Audi absolutely bolting it out the stables up the gearbox as they head down towards one. Holman's got the toe of Meredith in front, but it's only enough to keep him alongside as they make their way into the opening corner. Well, Holman trying to outbrake Gardner as much as he can as they come through the right-hander and up towards the left-hander of turn number 2, but in the end Holman right now does find a way back in, and Garner just not able to sweep the car around the outside of 2, and that's the Honda's handling for you as they come through 3. You can see now Meredith there with a little bit of an opening. Holman seizes it, but he's going to have to go around the outside as they come out of 4, and as they do, Garner now with the compromised line of Holman's going to try and come back into 5. I think Garner here will just wait his turn, knowing that trying to battle into 5 from that far back is going to be tantamount to difficulty as they come out to the hairpin and up towards turn number 6. But brilliant battling between this trio as they head in towards the left-hander and now onwards towards the remainder of the lap they go. Charging on around meanwhile, and looking at further back, we do have Matthew Cheverton. He's trying to make some progress here on further back versus Jake Pitt. We've got a bit of a battle building between the two Aztec Racing drivers, with Rafael Lobato in P34 behind. Lobato, of course, involved in an early incident which upset the apple cart with regards to his race and put him a long way down the order, but now trying to make a recovery drive in preparation for race number 2. And as they come through and down through turn number 7 up towards 8, I think Cheverton here now finds himself between 2 hard places. Indeed, there's no rock and hard place. It's 2 Elantras either side of him, and they're right now going to outpace him in this run, but Cheverton will have the toe, which he's able to utilise to his advantage as he comes in towards the braking zone here. Cheverton right now will feel safe this time around, but I think he does want to try and make a little bit more progress. But meanwhile, looking from Cheverton here, as you can see, Lobato all over the bag, and Cheverton having to go defensive into the final corner. This is going to cost him time as they come out to the right-hander and onto the start-finish straight. Will sweep and bust the concrete box at the moment. Meanwhile, further up the road, Alex Meredith here in the fight versus what is James Holman once again, and Holman trying this time to go outside on 2 into the inside of 3, and Meredith here leaves the door wide open. He's going to try once more to go outside to inside into 4. Bit of contact there, but Holman says no, that's it, I'm getting this done this time, and James Holman moves up to P15. Gavin Gardner now tries to make the dominoes fall. Meredith will find an Audi on his inside. The next gen racing with Douglas Motorsport car goes hot on the brakes. Meredith decides to go deep, trying to force the cutback run up towards 6, but it's such a short run here. I think Garner will have this covered off just in time. Indeed, Alex Meredith loses 2 places of battling for 1 as they come through turn number 6 into 7, but still defensive from Alex Meredith and really enjoying the battling, but I think that's going to confine him to P6 in the prime class for the remainder of this race, with Reese Watt 4 places up the road as he makes his way down the back straight. And meanwhile, we look to Sam Smith, who is in the side-by-side here of Alan McCain, and he's chasing after Linus Brustrom and Paul Scott. Now this is going to get very tasty as we look back from the rear of Paul Scott's machine. Now heading up towards the Beadle chicane. Paul Scott, of course, in a battle for P9 in the Prime class versus Linus Brustrom, with Sam Smith and McCain swapping places behind. Smith now ahead of McCain as they head up towards the final corner, clearing him on Beadle, and into the brakes they go here, and Paul Scott goes a bit deep. Meanwhile, there's a car off or going very wide. That is Sam Smith getting it very wrong. At turn number 11, he loses places to both McCain and Mark Sykes. And Wayne Douglas trying to come past him. They're on the penultimate lap now as they make the way up towards turn number 1 once again. But as they head down the hill and in towards the braking zone, Paul Scott will be clear this time. But meanwhile, things are kicking off further up the road, including Holmer versus McCluskey as they head into the left-hander at turn number 3. And that's Benjamin McCluskey on the inside. But look at Daniel Holmer being forced even further wide. And that's Josh Millington fighting with him as they come on through. And Josh Millington right now, P4 in the Pro-Am class. Neil Ferrier is your leader in the Pro-Am class. We should point out P6. But as they come in towards turn number 5, all of them right now nose to tail here. And Neil Ferrier on his debut. We haven't seen quite how he's going to lead the class. But what we can see is the Scotsman right now leads. And he is leading by a hair's width with Michael Lees only 3 tenths behind as they make the way towards turn number 7. But coming through the right hand here, of course, it will be the battle of the Veloster versus its sister machine from Hyundai of the Elantra. And as they come up towards turn number 9 for the penultimate time, Will Ferrier looks to be in control here. He's only got to do it one more time and he'll bring home his win in the class. They make the way into the braking zone, but coming through the left into right and all the way through it to the end of the next lap. Meanwhile, we look from them to the race leaders here, and Mikey Doble leading by 2 seconds. They make the way down the start, finish straight up towards turn number 1, all the way down towards the braking zone they go. And as they do, Mikey Doble setting the fastest lap of the race of 35.591. Meanwhile, Delmont and Pike here squaring off at P2. It definitely looks as though Doble's been given the opportunity to run away with the lead now, and it's all going to come down to fine margins between these two to the very end. With Pike, they're trying to set up a little bit of a run on the cut back out of 2 into 3. Can't quite find it at the moment. 3 tenths is the gap. As they enter the braking zone, it stays as is. Meanwhile, further back, Reece Watt and Benatelli here getting very intimate in the run into 2. And you can see that is also Martin Shirley trying to go around the outside to Reece Watt, the Pro, trying to fend off all the pros behind him. He's got more pros, and I think he's got toes at this point. So they make the way through turn number 3 in towards 4. And you can see on the inside, Shirley tries to cut it in, but Watt just cuts off the nose. And Marco Benatelli sweeps up the inside in return as they make the way down towards turn number 5. Now into the braking zone they go. And Will Shirley at this point is not going to be impressed by the fact he's almost had the front of the car wiped off there, but Reece Watt defending as hard as they can as they come out of 5 in towards 6 through the left-hander they go. With this battle right now, I think it's going to go up towards Vidal, and what's going to come of it, we'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, speaking of battles into Vidal, here's the battle for P2 between Delmont and Andrew Pike, and I don't think it's going anywhere at the moment. But meanwhile, we look from them to race leader Mikey Doble. He's 1.5 seconds clear as he comes through the final corner. And as he heads on around, the checkered flag will beckon. And for Doble Sim Racing's 88 driver, it's going to return to the top step as he crosses the line. Your winner in race number 1 of the day, ahead of Adam Delmont P2. Andrew Pike P3, John Higgins Jr. will come home P4 ahead of Joseph Doble, and it'll be Neil Ferrier who on his debut takes the Pro-Am win for what is their 4XR Ferrier Sim Racing ahead of Michael Lees and Benjamin McCluskey, who rounded the Pro-Am podium. Josh Millington just behind P9, Andrea Romi P10, and it will be Daniel Holmer Best Rest P11 ahead of Reece Watt with Marco Benatelli P13 ahead of Martin Shun and James Holman, Gavin Garner P16 ahead of Alex Meredith, and there'll be Marcelo Reles, Melvin Eckerson and Paul Scott who complete your top 20 with Linus Brostrom P21 and also Alan McCain P22, Wayne Douglas P23 there. As more drivers come on through, we've still got a few more to finish, including what is Damon Mulqueen, the Suzuki Fortis Racing driver. He's recovered to P34 after that nasty shunt between him and Jamie Dorey on the open lap. Dorey P33, Mulqueen at 34th, and then we can see what is behind Palamaniti P35 ahead of Lee Horn, Josh Brown P37 as he gradually comes to the line. In fact, we may catch Brown as he makes his way through the final corner. Next Gen Racing Blue driver. As he comes to the timeline, well, for Josh Brown, it's been a difficult start to the day, but still bringing on for him, getting 8 places overall, and we will gradually see Michael Kurtler be the last finisher on the lead lap as he makes his way on through there for Aztec Racing Team 2 and coming in towards the final corner now. Well, Kurtler, to be fair, had a difficult start today in qualifying, only just able to manage a lap towards the back of the field, but the Audi RS3 driver just finding his feet, we reckon, as he comes to the timeline. Your 38th finisher on that lead lap, flashes lights there. happy to make it on home. But what a race to start off the day, no doubt about it. And as all the drivers that come on into the pit lane, well, Martin Shirley there, I think feeling as though very heavy nip and tuck with regards to those battles inside the top 20. I think he enjoyed it, but at the same time, I think he also feels though the top 10 is where he wanted to be. The same for James Holman as well. The RD Simsport pair really found themselves frustrated in the race, but still 2 more races to go. But meanwhile, Mikey Dorey ensuring a win on his first race here at the Nürburgring Sprintstrecke. And well, meanwhile, Neil Ferrier bringing home the win there as he makes his way out of the car. But also some other standout performances included Marcello Reles battling for a P18, and we also had what was a top 10 for Mark Sykes in the Pro-Am class. But as all our drivers make their way into the pit lane, these are the results subject to any stewards' inquiries. Well, after our first 20 minutes of racing, or 13 laps in anger here at the Nürburgring Sprintstrecke circuit on the GP Loop for round 5 of season 3 of the NXTGEN, hosted on iRacing, sponsored by Douglas Motorsport, Mikey Doble there taking his win for Double Sim Racing by 1.5 seconds over Adam Delmont for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport. Andrew Pyatt P3 for the Sim Racing Collective. Between the trio, it was back and forth, but in the end, the Elantra Doble was able to run away, and that will be your overall and pro podium. The Sim Racing Collective John Higgins Jr. P4 when all was said and done, fighting his way up through the order, indeed gaining 8 places overall, and a brilliant drive there ahead of Joseph Doble P5 for Doble Sim Racing. And then on his debut, Neil Ferrier taking the prime win for 4XR Ferrier Sim Racing by what was 4 tenths in over Michael Lees for Next Gen Racing Yellow, with the fellow at Next Gen Racing Yellow driver Benjamin McCluskey rounding off your prime podium. Josh Millington at P9 on his debut, the Sim Racing Collective driver, enjoying a great start to his season campaign inside the top 10 ahead of Andrea Romi to complete the top 10 for GRT Esport, and then behind the pro driver, fellow pro at Best the Rest, Daniel Holmer for Bright Esports in P11. Reese Watt for JW Motorsport completing the top 5 in the prime class there, P12. A difficult start in qualifying, but managed to bounce back at the late stages, and he's shown that again in the first race of the day, with then Marco Benatelli, Martin Shirley and James Holman completing your top 15. The RD Simsport drives being followed up by Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport's Gavin Gardner, who had to fight his way through from what was a starting position of P20 to P16, then Alex Meredith P17, falling back a couple of overall places, but still enjoying the fight there with his pro contenders. Then Marcello Reles P18 ahead of what was Melvin Eckerson and Paul Scott to complete your top 20. Linus Brostrom P21 there for Bright Esports ahead of Alan McCain, and then Wayne Douglas and Mark Sykes P23, P24, Mark Sykes completing your prime top 10. Sam Smith P25, a difficult race for the iRace Esports driver, particularly that late mistake what we saw was the Hyundai N curve, with Isaac Dole P26 ahead of Phil McDougall, then Daniel Fritz P28. As we can see our way on down the order there, Matthew Shepperton at P29 for Aztec Racing ahead of Rafael Lobato P30, and then Jonathan Collins just missing out on the top 30 there in P31. Jake Pitt, Jamie Dorey and Damon Mulqueen ahead of Paolo Maniti to P35, with Lee Horn, Josh Brown and Michael Kurtler completing your 38 finishers on the lead lap. And then finishing a lap down was James Mascasgal, Luke Jones and Gabriel Yilmaz. Then P42, 2 laps down, Nick Clibbins. And then we had the one retirement of Costa Chats Continentino due to technical issues, and the Biff, Hornet and Epic Collective driver retiring 10 laps in the end, and they'll be classified as a did not finish. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our first race of the day here in Germany. But we've got 2 more to go, and we will be back in approximately 7 to 8 minutes for the build-up to race number 2. The bar has been set incredibly high after our first 13 laps. How high will it go in the second race of the day? Well, don't go anywhere. You will not want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to our second race of the day in round 5 of Season 3 of the NXTGEN here at the Nürburgring Sprintstrecke in Germany, near the city of Nürburgring. And what a way to start our proceedings. Qualifying was absolutely intense, with 30 drivers within 1 second of the pole sitter, and race number 1 did not disappoint, with Mikey Dorey taking the win over in the Pro class, and behind him in P4, it was the rise, of course, of newcomer to the grid, Neil Ferry in the Pro class taking the win. But as our drivers get set to go racing it once again, well, we are just in the interlude section at the moment. My drivers are being given the opportunity to load into the session, and once they're all loaded in, we'll then be transitioning immediately to the grid for our second race of the day. But whilst we get ready to go, we see Alex Meredith making his way on around, and we have done a little bit of work behind the scenes to try and resolve the issue that we saw earlier in race number 1 with regards to our overlay lagging behind all the racing action. So hopefully that has been resolved, ladies and gentlemen, and if it hasn't, we'll continue to work on it where we can in the background. But besides that, as we see Meredith making his way down through turn number 7, we do say hello to a good number of you who have joined us a little bit later on, and that includes in the Facebook chat there K-Teams, who we say good evening to, and also Matt Evans, who says, wow, what a grid. It did an absolutely packed, action-packed roster. We also say hello there in the YouTube chat to H-Bomb at 69, also to Phil McDougall, who says good evening to you, Phil. Also to Krushy, who says good afternoon, and good afternoon to you, Krushy. And I can see your avatar there in YouTube is a cup of coffee, I do believe. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, if you need a beverage right now, whether it be a hot or a cold one, albeit perhaps a cold one may be advised, given the fact we're now moving into the summer around the world, then you definitely want to go grab one sooner rather than later, because the racing action is going to be approximately 5 minutes away, if not sooner, and therefore you won't want to miss it. We also say hello there, I do believe, to Rob Sutherland. Good evening to you, Rob. Hope you're doing well. And we should point out, ladies and gentlemen, with the assignment of our 2 newcomers of Josh Millington and also what is Neil Ferrer, both in the Prime class. They've been assigned provisionally given the fact they're new to the series, but based on the results today, we may indeed see them both be moved up to the Pro class. We'll have to wait and see what's decided in the stewards booth after today's proceedings. But indeed, as our drivers all get set, we also say hello there to John Higgins Senior, who says great full place for Junior for 12th field podium in race 2. And well, John Higgins Jr. definitely rising, and we saw that, of course, in what was the Long Beach races last week, where he really has brought it back after the difficulties of Imola really catched out Higgins Jr. and now back. And whilst he's not out on circuit at the moment, we can see his teammate Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective, and Pike putting together an absolutely brilliant drive to P3, a deserved P3 finish there for the number 99 car as he makes his way on around. And now can he go one step further and make it a P2 versus Adam Delmont? He'd ideally like to make it a win, of course, and that's the one thing I think right now Delmont and Pike will both be thinking about, is whether they can win it in the run to turn 1 versus Doble, given Doble has really struggled with the launch in the Elantra. Every time he started towards the front of the bit, it's just not worked out, and it's always been a stumble down towards the opening corner. Meanwhile, the Hondas are able to launch much more gradually and comfortably by comparison, and that may just be the key that they need to unlock a potential win. But as we do see Pike heading down towards turn number 1 once again. Meanwhile, we look from him to Nick Clibbins, the Audi driver from iRacing Esports, who had a difficult race number 1, end up finishing 2 laps down, but finished all the same. Of course, our drivers are encouraged to actively finish races, and we should explain the reasoning behind that. Of course, we want to see everybody try to complete the races where they can, whether they're a lap down or 2 laps down, because at the end of the day, you never know what happens in racing, even over a short sprint race like the ones you're seeing on screen today. And well, anything can happen. Indeed, it does encourage a community or an attitude of being in it to win it all the way from start to finish. And drivers who do leave the races early, unless there is a significant technical issue with the car, or alternatively with their equipment and whatnot, they are normally penalised after the races there in order to encourage them to stay in the race all the way to the end. But as we can see here, Cleve's heading through the left into right there of Vido. We'd see Neil Ferrier there, and say hello to him in the YouTube chat, who says that was a real good race 1, lucky for me. And well, Neil, we'll have to wait and see if you can make it 2 out of 2 in the 4XR machine. You are looking very fast in that Veloster, as meanwhile our drivers here continue to put in those practice laps. But as we see what is Cleve's heading on through there, we are most likely now just a couple more minutes away. We are just checking in with race control at the moment. Everything seems to be gradually moving forward with regards to everyone getting into lobby. But of course, we are giving our drivers as much time as possible, and that does mean we may have a slight delay to get underway for our next race, indeed the final race of the day. Gabriel Yilmaz here, the Aztec Racing T2 driver, had a difficult race as well to start off his opening bank account here at the Nürburgring, finishing well down the order. The 26th driver, of course, still going to terms of that Honda Civic tyre path as Aztec Racing T2, having joined midway through the season, back in what was round number 3, if my memory serves me correctly, and therefore he may be a little bit new to the field, but gradually embedded himself as he makes his way down towards turn number 5. Well, definitely he'll be looking to move a little bit further up the order this time around. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, one thing to consider here as I try to get set to go, or I should really open the question up to you guys and girls at home. Out of all the circuits on our schedule, of course, which one is your favourite, either as a spectator, if you do your own sim racing or own racing around the world, what do you think is your favourite circuit out of the circuits on our calendar? Whether it be, of course, the likes of the Nürburgring Sprintstrecke, which we're racing at here today, or we mentioned circuits such as Sandown earlier, also Alton Park Ireland, and a couple of others to go with it. Do let us know. But as they head up towards what is turn 9 and 10, Yilmaz here getting himself all comfortably in. But meanwhile, Lee Horde heading on around there. And Lee Horde as well having a difficult start to the day. A nasty knock early on in the race, really upsetting the rhythm. And therefore now he's going to have to try and recover and build his way back up. Because of course, the one thing that's going to be on our drivers' minds more than most now is the fact they'll want to target finishing inside the top 23. Because we do have that reverse grid draw coming up after the second race. Now the ideal target is you finish P13 in the race, because then you're guaranteed to be on that reverse grid if the number 13 is drawn. But if you finish a little bit higher up the order, in terms of the fact if you finish down in, in fact, further down the order we should say, the numbers going the opposite way of course in motorsport, if you finish in say P16, then you've got quite a high chance of being within that reverse grid. It's not perfect, but you can hedge your bets that you're very likely to be there. But if you meanwhile finish in P22 or P23, then it becomes a much rarer opportunity, but you never know what could come. But as we see there, John Meredith saying that his favourite circuit is Ritz-Carlton Motor Centre or Alton Park. Indeed, a nice mix there. Alton Park being a very tight British circuit, actually filled with undulations, elevations and blind apexes. And Ritz-Carlton as well, an interesting circuit in the fact that whilst it may not be on the calendar this season, we have seen it in, I think it was season 2, and my goodness, the racing at Ritz-Carlton, absolutely phenomenal. If we haven't been to Ritz-Carlton yet, then we'll definitely have to look at going there for a future season, given the fact that it's so tight and narrow at certain corner sequences, but at others as well, it's very wide open. It's all about being brave on the brakes. It would generate great touring car racing, and I do believe it's actually played host to TCR Norway a couple of times over the course of its history. Lee Hornet makes his way on out there of the final corner. I think we are just waiting on the last couple of drivers to get into lobby, ladies and gentlemen. So we do apologise for the continued delay here, but we are just managing a couple of drives. They have slow connections, indeed, every on different hardware. And well, if you've ever raced an iRacing, you'll appreciate some drives loaded absolutely automatically. Meanwhile, others take, it would seem like a decade to get in by comparison. But indeed, we try to respect everybody with regards to their hardware that they bring to each and every race. And as we see Matthew Cheverton there, and what is, I do believe, Wayne Douglas getting a little bit close together as they make their way through turn number 2. Practicing some battling there, going for the opening 2 corners. And our drivers continue to put in lap times. Of course, if we get to the 20-minute mark of this practice session, we will automatically transition our way into the second race of the day, and the grid will start being set then. So our drivers cannot dilly-dally about it. They do need to get into the session before that time is up. And meanwhile, one driver who'll be looking to have a better race 2 compared to race number 1 after those technical issues with his sim rig in the first race. Costa Chats Continentino in the Biff Hornet and Epic Collective Audi RS3. Lovely livery on that car, must be said. And of course, do check out Costa C photography if you're looking for sim racing photos, and I do believe the livery put together by Mark Sykes Designs, and a good number of liveries that you'll see on the grid put together by Mark Sykes Designs, and of course owned and managed by Mark Sykes himself. And if you're looking for a fantastic livery on iRacing or a set of course competition on PC, then look no further, because Mark Sykes definitely the master of the livery making machine. But as we can see, Chats Continental making its way up towards Vidal here. Well, we do have the checker flag of this session. We have been given the call. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for race number 2. And well, given the fact the embers are still cooling down from race number 1, I think some tempers will still be hot. And here we go then. How are they all going to get on over another 13 laps? As our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for the second race of the day. Mikey Doble takes pole position, joined by Adam Delman on the front row. Behind them, it's Andrew Pite and John Higgins Jr. on row 2. Row 3 goes to Joseph Doble and Neil Ferrier, followed up by Michael Leese and Benjamin McCluskey. The two primes there will go charging after the prime leader off the line, and Josh Millington and Andrea Romi complete your top 10 on the 5th row of the grid. We then have on row number 6 Daniel Homer and Reese Watt, followed up by the partnering of Marco Benatelli and Martin Shirley on row number 7, and it's James Holman and Gavin Garner on row number 8. Marcello Reales and Alex Meredith are together on row number 9, albeit in the opposite order to what we've just read out. Then Melvin Erkison and Paul Scott complete your top 20 there on the 10th row. Row number 11 goes to Linus Brostrom and Alan McCain, followed up by Wayne Douglas and Mark Sykes on row number 12. Row 13 will consist of Sam Smith and Isaac Doble, followed up by Phil McDougall and Daniel Fritz on row number 14. Row 15 goes to Matthew Cheverton and Rafael Lobato to complete the top 30, but that's the field, folks, and here's the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for race number 2, and Mikey Doble gets a better start this time, and as they build their way out towards turn number 1, you can see Adam Delman still going for the move. He's going to be on the inside here, and Delman goes all in onto the brakes. They head on into the Yokohama chicane, and as they come through the corner here, they're going to take the long way into the Mercedes arena, and they make their way up here, and Delman they're being made to hold the inside line as they come out and up towards toe, but now outside and wraps round and gets it done versus Mikey Doble. Meanwhile, Neil Ferrier jumps up to P4. Further back, we've got a couple of incidents starting to play out, albeit I think it's drivers going slowly through the opening 2 corners. Michael Leese here battling side by side with Benjamin McCluskey as they come from 3 into 4, but look at Andrea Romi as Romi tries to go on the inside here. I think Leese is going to be tucked down the order as they make their way up towards the break-ins over the hairpin. In they go, and we continue to lose Leese slightly as we look to McCluskey clearing the apex, and Andrea Romi clears Leese as they come through turn number 5 and up towards 6, and Andrea Romi making ground early. Michael Leese continues to be forced back with Josh Millington on his outside, and Millington being brave here to go outside to inside through 6 and 7 on cold tyres no less as they come through the left and into the right hander, and he's got Reese Watt battling hard with him as we jump aboard with Reese Watt as he makes out the corner. Mate's got a little bit wide here, Reese Watt for JW Motorsport. As he powers his way up towards turn at number 9, he's got a car on his inside, and that is in the form of Daniel Holmer's trying to come on through. We can't quite see Holmer, but be rest assured he's there as they make their way into the braking zone. Well, Holmer right now backs out, very close onto the inside there as they come through, but there's contact between the Tum and Daniel Holmer, and Watt are not giving in. 3 wide as they make their way up towards the final corner on their inside. That is Martin Shirley. He goes in. There's contact with Watt, and as they come out of the corner, Reese Watt is knocked aside as they make their way out of the corner on towards the start-finish line. Well, after 1 lap, it's Mikey Doble who leads as he makes his way down towards turn number 1 once more. Adam Delman on the outside this time as Doble has come back. There's Andrew Pite P3, Neil Ferrier P4 into the braking zone. It's going to be Delman who tries to go around the outside, but Doble this time does what was done to him on the opening lap as they make their way into turn number 2, and you can see that Doble squeezing the door shut, and Delman trying to get his nose in. So it looks like he's trying to force his foot in the door, and it's only been closed shut on it as they make their way down through turn number 3. Meanwhile, John Higgins Jr. P5 ahead of Benjamin McCluskey P6, Andrea Romi P7, biggest gainer at the start of the race inside what is there the top 10, and as they make their way up towards turn at number 5, we've got Michael Leese P8, Josh Millington P9, Daniel Homer P10, and best rest Martin Shirley P11. But meanwhile, further battling going on down the order, including where's a mad dash in the run up towards turn 5. That's 3 wide on the break, and that's Holman versus Benatelli and Reales. And as they come through, that's not Holman, that is there. I do believe Reese Watt getting involved as they make their way out of 5 and up towards 6 right now. Well, Doble still side by side with Sam Smith. Smith on the inside, Doble on the outside. The 2 pros come together, and as they make their way through the left into right here, well, that's going to be Joseph Doble tries to come back, and he's going to have to begin the room. Smith can't shut the door on him, given the fact Doble's got nowhere else to go. And as they make their way up towards what is the Vidal chicane, you can see Linus Brostrom there going a little bit high and dry coming out of turn number 7. He's going to lose out briefly, and the Elantra driver just has to watch as the Elantra of Sam Smith right now being attacked by Joseph Doble. Well, Doble looks around the outside on the grass, and the car snaps loose, and he just taps the rear of what was the car there of Melvin Erkison, but it was not to be for Joseph Doble, who now has to recover as he's dropped a long way down the order. And well, meanwhile, as he brings it back together, looking a bit further up the road, Mark Sykes battling on the inside versus Damon Mulqueen. Mulqueen trying to make ground. Remember, Mulqueen starting P34 and right now making ground at a rapid rate, knots up to P28. We're only on to the 3rd lap of racing here, and Mulqueen wants to get inside that top 20 as a minimum. term. Of course, third place in the championship going into tonight overall. And Mulqueen right now does not want to lose any ground. But as they make their way down to the braking zone here for turn number 1, they're all going to go line astern for a brief moment. No safety car out of the circuit currently. Jay Pitt in the pit lane is where to understand it, so he's been involved in a bit of an incident early on. We've also got a couple of other drivers who've been involved in a rather nasty shot on the opening corner. We will take a look back at what's happened to them shortly, ladies and gentlemen. But meanwhile, Mark Sykes versus drive for Collins. Collins goes deep into 3, he's got the inside into 4, but Mark Sykes says, well, just go around, thank you very much, and gets it done for P26. He puts another car between himself and Mulqueen, but I don't think it's going to be long before Dan Mulqueen looks to move. As Collins there covers off the inside. Oh, goodness me, is that contact to Mulqueen's car? Or has the rear just snapped loose? Well, either way, if that's contact, that's net code, and Mulqueen being sent astray there into turn number 5. And with the Suzuki Fortis racing driver with a lot of damage on the front left wheel arch there. Looks like the bodywork's been forced backwards over the wheel. And, well, it's been a difficult one for the Suzuki Fortis racing driver from New Zealand. There's no question about that, and all the progress he's made has now been for naught. But meanwhile, we look from towards the back of the field, back up to P20, and this is Linus Bergstrom for Bright Esports under pressure from Phil McDougall as they come on through. Vito and Ryan Bunn looking back here as both machines clatter their way over the apex curves. Bergstrom in the car, which is a bit more comfortable over the curves compared to the Honda. That's the Elantra as they make their way through turn number 11. And meanwhile, fastest lap of the race goes to Adam Delman at 36.002. Lap times continue to pour on in, and I believe Mikey Dover 35.950, but it's an invalid lap. That's why it's not classified as the fastest. And as the drivers make their way down the start of the straight, well, McDougall nowhere near close here. 3/10 back as they head into the braking zone. But look at Isaac Doble, meanwhile, trying to look around the outside. McDougall goes hot on the brakes. That is very late in the day for McDougall to go and win, but he's made it. Meanwhile, we've got a car going wrong there up the road. I believe that's Benatelli who's been sent astray, coming out of turn 1 into 2. Well, I'm not sure what's happened to Benatelli, but there's a story behind that one. We can definitely say that. And as they make the way on down, meanwhile, McDougall wasn't able to make the move on Brostrom, but we've got third back in the air for Melvin Eckerson, who's trying to hold off Sam Smith and make progress on Marcello Reles. The prime here being surrounded by pros, and Smith comes up the inside, goes for it on the brakes here, and I think Smith will have this done. There's no question about it, unless Eckerson can cut it back. He can indeed, and in fact there, it's going to be a mistake for Smith as he overcooks the corner. Side by side now into turn number 6 they go, 2 wide on entry, and Smith will surely have this as they come out and in towards 7, because he can just park the car on the middle of the road onto racing line, and Eckerson has to wait and watch. He can't come back. But meanwhile, speaking of the comeback, here's your race leader, Mikey Doble, and the double sim racing driver under pressure from Adam Delman. Andrew Pike, they're just waiting in the wings. And I think Pike may be playing the patience game here, which is not to get involved until the top 2 really start to take time out of one another. But I think he will need to pounce on this, given the fact if Doble's allowed to just get one step clear of Delman, then Delman will once again find himself having to fend off Pike come the end of the race. You can see Pike there flashing his lights, trying to tell Delman, I think if you don't get a move on, I will get the move on for you. As Higgins Jr. sets the fastest lap of the race, a 35.960. So the Sim Racing Collective drivers really now started to hit their stride as they come down into turn 1 once again. Looking back, Michael Lees here. We try to look around the outside. Benjamin McCluskey. This is a P2 in the prime class. And meanwhile, behind Andrea Romi and what is Josh Millington getting in the mix. Millington P4 in the prime class. He's got Romi the Pro between him and his 2 fellow prime belligerents. They come through 2 and down towards 3. Lees ran a little bit wide there, and the car dances deep under the brakes. And as he comes on through, that's going to give Romi every opportunity here to sweep round the outside through 4. Lees tries to do everything he can there to make sure Millington can't gain an opportunity. I think Millington's going to throw caution to the window as they head to the braking zone for 5. Lees on the inside, Millington on the outside. Who's going to be the bolder of the 2 under braking? Well, it's going to be Lees here who's able to hold the position, but Millington not afraid to get his elbows out as he makes his way up towards turn number 6. And through left into right they go as they make the way on through and into the right-hander now at 7. And Lees has to back off for now with Josh Millington right there behind as he tries to find a way to get closer to Romy and trying to break away. But as they power their way in towards the Vito chicane, it is going to be about fine margins here for these guys all the way to the very end. And speaking of fine margins, well, right now Millington getting close on the outside there, can't find a way on through, and instead onto the brakes they go and stay as they were. But I can tell you one thing about a driver who knows fine margins. He's there in the YouTube chat right now. It's Sparks Theory, who's raced a good number of our PlayStation 4 leagues over the years. We say hello to him as he says hello next gen. And meanwhile right now James Holman here still in a bit of back and forth versus Reese and Sam Smith. Meanwhile behind them Marcello Reles clears Eckerson for the time being as they come on to lap number 6 of 13. as they head down the start-finish straight and up towards turn number 1. We can see behind them Matthew Cheverton. Well, Cheverton now starting to make a bit more progress. In fact, Cheverton has gained 6 places, 7 places overall. If he can make this stick on Jamie Dorey. Dorey, of course, with that success ballast, and you can see the Honda, which wouldn't normally be outrunning the Veloster on the straight, or it would do so at a very gradual rate of knots. We're now on the inside. Dorey's there. Cheverton tries to hold it around the outside, but just goes a little bit too gradual on the outside line there. And in fact, he has to defend versus Mark Sykes, and Sykes trying to battle Cheverton for P9 in the Pro-Am class. And these guys, of course, battling for the final potential reverse grid spot of P23. So it does take a little bit more emphasis here. It's not just about points and class position, it's also about the potential opportunity to be on pole for the final race of the day. If they hit their odds, if you get a P23 out of the lottery pool, you may as well buy a lottery ticket. But as they make their way down towards turn number 5, they stay as they were for now. But Sykes definitely knowing there's an opportunity here that he needs to capitalise on. But meanwhile, as they make their way out, Sykes tries to ride the back there of Cheverton's car, albeit to no avail. We're going to try to seize the opportunity very shortly to take a look back at what happened on the open lap, and in particular to a number of drivers who were involved in a nasty shunt. But as we do, meanwhile up the road, Isaac Doble battling here with Rafa Lobato, and this is about for P19 overall. Phil McDougall up the inside of Lobato, and well, the CXR Project Black driver, he's just there, he's ever threatening as they head towards the braking zone. Can he get this done here? It's going to be bold to go around the outside, a bit of contact there, McDougall made to go deep. Meanwhile, Dorey there tries to go around the outside through 10, and meanwhile behind will Sykes versus Cheverton, no change at the moment. Meanwhile, we've got a driver falling down the order. Well, I think somebody's gone wide there, and in fact, that is James Holman, who's had a trip to the gravel, and I think a bit more than that. But Melvin Eckerson here, he's moved up to P16 ahead of Isaac Doble. 3 wide in the rain to turn number 1. Oh my good lord, as they come down to the brakes here. Well, whenever you go 3 wide, it's always going to end up 2 ways. There's contact there between what is the iRacing esports machine hitting the side of Marcelo Reyes. That's Sam Smith. And meanwhile, Melvin Eckerson jumps ahead of Smith. And Smith, I think, is going to be absolutely incensed at the fact that Melvin Eckerson proves to be a forward inside once again as they come through turn number 3 and in towards 4. As they come through the right-hander here right now, well, Marco Benatelli will be trying to break away from this group as much as he can. But I think he's going to keep getting reeled back on in at the GRT Esport driver as the pressure is on for VRGT behind. And well, Marcelo Reyes is showing no signs of waiting. Indeed, his appetite for places is right there, and it's absolutely ferocious for the Argentinian as he comes through turn number 6. But heading on around, meanwhile, from them we do take a look back to what happened on the opening lap, and this is the perspective from Alan McCain. He's making his way through the opening corner. The iRacing esports driver finds himself right in the thick of it as they come through. And I think for McCain, a bit of contact there with the Doble SimSport machine. And Paul Scott into the side. So Paul Scott and Alan McCain coming together. And then a little bit later on, coming down, this was Nick Clibbins in the fight versus the JW Motorsport machine, I believe, of what was Luke Jones. But they all safely made it on through, in fact. So McCain and Paul Scott coming to the end, and coming to the end of their race prematurely. But everybody else surviving the opening course, and it was the run in towards the end. We had a 3 wide for that. Daniel Fritz in the middle of that versus Mark Sykes and Lee Horn. But everybody's surviving it there. So mostly clean racing between a couple of knocks, scrapes and bumps. But you have to expect that in touring car racing, of course. They make their way up towards turn number 6. And well, that is the opening lap there, or at least the opening half of the lap from the back of the field. A very good racing between our drivers. But meanwhile, we look back to your live pictures. And speaking of Daniel Fritz, well, he's going to try and make the move on Chats Constantino in towards turn number 1. And with the Audi there, you can see spreading its legs and charging as they make their way towards the braking zone. Albeit Fritz down on the inside, and the Whiskey Runners race with an NXTGEN Racing blue driver on the inside there. Clatters his way over the apex curve and gets it done and takes P31 there off Chats Constantino. A very tricky corner, of course, to get right on the inside turn 1, but he's made it count and right now breaks away for the Audi. But looking from them back up to the front of the field, and we can see here are your race leaders of Mikey Doble ahead of Adam Delman and Andrew Pike. And well, we talked about earlier on about Doble potentially just breaking away if Delman could not put a dent into the momentum that Doble was building, and I think that has now rung true in the fact that Delman is 6/10 off and is not showing signs of being right there to threaten anymore. And if anything, it's Andrew Pike now who's started to creep closer, but further back, Josh Millington here in P9, battling for what is P3 in the Pro-Am class versus Michael Lees, and these two very evenly matched. It must be said, 2 different cars, 2 different teams, and 2 drivers with different levels of experience in this league, with Millington being on his debut today, Michael Lees, of course, being a staple of the roster. And as they make the way down towards turn 1, with Militant showing no signs of battling with the best as they come down towards the turn 1 braking zone. But as they do, it's going to stay as is for now, or is it, as we ride on board here with the Sim Racing Collective Civic Type R, and as he comes out of 1 into 2. Through the left-hander they go, and well, can Millington find a way? If he's going to go for it, he's going to need to try and force this under braking, because the Honda does have the strongest brakes of the field, but you won't want to overcook the tyres, because if you do overheat them on the Honda, it does struggle to shed that excess temperature. It's an odd car, the Honda, in terms of its tyre temperatures. We briefly lose Millington there, and that is a connectivity fault, but he's back as he comes down towards the braking zone. I hope that's not a sign of something to come for Millington. Of course, if we start to see drivers fading in and out of existence on circuit, it could be the equivalent of an upcoming engine blowout. But as they make the way in towards turn number 6, Millington stays where he is for the time being. Meanwhile, further back, Wayne Douglas here, trying to put pressure on Matthew Cheverton, with Rafael Lobato also in the mix. This is a P20 overall, and with Cheverton right now P7 in the prime class, and he's doing a very good job here to keep the two pros at bay. Douglas looking up the inside. I think Cheverton's got to be careful in the fact as they come through turn 6 into 7. If it's a tight line like that and Douglas feels he can commit to it, he will force it under braking. We know that Douglas isn't afraid to get stuck in on the braking attempts, and as they make the way out of 7, it's a long line of cars, and Matthew Cheverton's at the head of the pack as they head up towards Vito once again, but heading in towards the braking zone shortly. You can see Rafael Lobato taking a peek. Douglas covers him off. Cheverton puts it in the middle row. Douglas still there. Douglas still forcing the door open, and it's going to be contact between the two. Lobato tries to go around the outside. He's not going to find it as Douglas and Lobato come together, and Douglas is turned to the tyre barrier. Meanwhile, it's going to be with Cheverton who holds on, albeit now it's opened up the door to the tidal wave of Pro-Ams behind, because Phil McDougall, Mark Sykes, and also Wes Luke Jones are right there, with Joseph Doe will be in the outlier in the Pro class, but otherwise it's going to be a four-way battle for Pro-Am P7 to the finish, with 4 laps remaining as they come down the hill, and Joseph Doe wants to clear them as soon as possible, but my goodness, Joseph Doe's got his work cut out, because these Pro-Ams right now, they may not be on his pace, but I can tell you one thing, they've got as big an appetite as anybody to win places off of one another as they come through the Mercedes arena once again, heading on down in towards turn number 3, and as they come down, Phil McDougall, they're still trying to keep Joseph Doe at bay. It's the battle of the Hondas behind the lead Honda is Cheverton, and Cheverton here getting Phil McDougall to do the hard work for him as they make the way out of 4, and we look back for the rear of the Aztec Racing 390 car, and Cheverton right now I think is going to have all his team on the radio absolutely egging him on for the fact he could be on course for his best performance of the season. But as they make the way out of turn 5 and up towards 6, McDougall right now, he's held Doe at bay, and if there's one thing you can guarantee in that CXR Project Map machine is that Phil McDougall will find a way to sneak up and make a move. He is one of those stealthy drivers. Look at, he just appeared, and right now he picks up an absolutely brilliant run out of turn number 7, and as they make the way through the kink of 8 and up towards Vito, well, Cheverton's going to defend here, McDougall on the outside, it's going to be a battle on the brakes, equal machinery, it's going to come down to the driver, and of course Cheverton on that inside line. McDougall's going to go the long way round, he tries to cut it back in, can't quite find it, but meanwhile Joseph Doe was made to wait and watch as they exit the corner, but now Doe tries to pounce, as meanwhile McDougall's still trying to build up a bit of speed into the end curve. They come up through the right-hander, Joseph Doble's there, McDougall gives him the space, there's a small tap between them, but no harm comes of it, and as they power the way on through, Rafael Lobato gets back into this fight as well after that contact with Wayne Douglas. 3 more laps to go, and as they head down the start finish straight, well, Lobato here riding the back of Luke Jones' machine, and the merit from Lobato racing drive up the inside onto the brakes, and meanwhile Joseph Doble tries to make a move there, but Lobato forced to cut off the attack as they make the way out of 1 up towards 2. Meanwhile Joseph Doble there versus Phil McDougall. McDougall here is absolutely forcing this battle to go on. He wants that position off of Cheverton. He does not want to go any further back, given the fact if he can be P21, then the fact he's got a better chance to be a reverse grid pole, but Joseph Doble knows that and he wants it as well. Meanwhile, Lobato on the inside of Mark Sykes, contacting the pros and the primes. Right now, I don't think they care about their classes, all they care about is overall position as they come down towards turn number 5. Lobato on the inside there of Sykes, and Sykes been moved wide as Luke Jones comes in as well, and the JW Motorsport and Lancia goes toe-to-toe with the next-gen Audi. Both cars there have seen bruises on them, but right now Sykes holds the position, and I think it's going to be calming down for a brief moment, and indeed we deserve a breather from that one, but meanwhile it's not over yet, because as we look to them making their way down towards what is the Vito chicane, Josh Millington here versus Garen Gardner, and this is going around and through the final corner. Gone on the inside of Josh Millington as they come through turn number 11 to go on to the penultimate lap. But meanwhile behind we've also got Daniel Homer trying to make the move, and Martin Shirley, and where it's going to be RD Simsport versus Bright Esports here, and Homer looking around the outside as meanwhile Shirley looking slow, but I think that's more the Honda straight line speed holding him back rather than anything else. Meanwhile in front of them you can see Millington defensive versus Garner, Homer there on the outside versus Shirley as they come through turn number 1. The Bright Esports trying not able to come back into 2. He is going to have to wait his turn. Meanwhile further back we've still got the bad scramble of the prior battle. Lobato's up to P21 there. It's going to be 3 wide further behind. Cheverton's been allowed to break away. Sykes on the inside, Doe in the middle, Phil do on the outside. They go 3 abreast into the apex. Brilliant racing. Keep it clean, lads. Come on as they make the way out towards turn number 2. There's a bit of contact there between Doble and McDougall, but this is absolutely scintillating stuff. Sykes does get ahead in a daring move on the inside, but as they make the way down, he goes wide and deep into 3. This is going to give McDougall the cutback run through 3 into 4 as Sykes has to try and pick up the lap once again. But McDougall there on the outside. Sykes gives him the space and comes off the inside line down towards turn number 5. We've also got a bit of contact between 2 cars further back, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that may be. I think that's where the iRacing Esports cars being turned across the front of Linus Brunstrom, and we'll push them and Alan McCain coming together, and the Bright Esports driver there in a bit of contact. I think there's a little bit of a history to that one, but meanwhile as we look from them to what is a bit further up the road, we'll be looking particularly to Isaac Doble right now under pressure from Jamie Dorey, and Jamie Dorey are trying to look for the move as meanwhile your race leaders have gone on to the final lap for today. Isaac Doble here defending hard versus Jamie Dorey, and as we look from them up towards the front of the field very shortly, well, Dorey not able to find a way on through, but here is your top 3 as they come for the opening corner. Doble ahead of Delwood followed by Pike, and then Higgins Jr. P4 with Neil Ferrier right behind, and Benjamin McCluskey second in Pro class behind Neil Ferrier is currently 2.5 seconds back, with Andrea Romi hot on his toes as they make the way through turns 1 and 2. But as they head through the Mercedes arena for the second time in this second race of the day, Daniel Homer still trying to knock on the door of Martin Shirley and find a way to get in. But right now I think it is all about trying to find that late move. I don't think Shirley's going to make a mistake here. The RD Simsport driver absolutely consistent to the T. But meanwhile behind them Melvin Eckerson, the other Bright Esports car, also trying to battle its way past the pros. The primer Melvin Eckerson currently P5 in the class, and well inside that what is the top 23 for a potential reverse grid slot in P15. So I think he'll be pleased with this performance and hoping that the numbers stay relatively low, and as they make the way on out of turn number 5, where it's going to be a run through the corners, but I don't think anything's going to come of it at this point. But as we look from them to Benjamin McCluskey, he's right now got Andrea Romi hot behind him as they head up through the King of A, and Robbie there close enough to consider a move, but I don't think it's going to come, given the fact McCluskey can just defend to the inside here and force Robbie to have to go very slow through Vidal. But meanwhile heading through the final corner comes Mikey Doble, and as he exits the corner, it's been some time since he's making 2 out of 2 on a race day, but when he makes it 2 out of 2 it means 3 out of 3 could be coming, but he takes the win in the second race of the day. Does Mikey Doble ahead of Adam Delman P2, Andrew Pike P3, and it'll be John Higgins Jr. P4 and Neil Ferrier who takes the prime win, back-to-back prime wins for Ferrier. Benjamin McCluskey P6 and Andrea Romi P7, and Josh Millington rounds off the prime podium there, P8 ahead of Gavin Carter and Martin Shirley. Daniel Homer best of the rest, P11, not able to pass Martin Shirley come the end, and as other drivers make the way to the timeline, we have got a little bit of battle further back here between Nick Clemens and Daniel Fritz of P13 in the prime class, which is P29 overall. They'll make the way up towards the final corner, and I think Clemens will be trying to get a cutback launch out of turn number 11, but will it come or not? Well, as he clears the corner, it's going to be a charge here, but I think in the end it will be Fritz who holds on to P29. Clemens finishes our top 30 ahead of Palamaniti P31, Leord at P32 there ahead of Reese Watt, and Watt being a degree back by 6 seconds. And as he heads across the timeline, we then do have Paul Scott crossing the line, P34, with what is then Damon Mulqueen P35, with a late error for Damon Mulqueen, almost putting him behind Chats Constantino, but in the end he finishes ahead of Chats Constantino P36, and then it will be shortly Jake Pitt who finishes P37 for Aztec Race, and number 15 driver in a little bit of a lonely P37, but still getting to the end of the race, and that's what it's all about. And then Alex Meredith, a difficult second race of the day for the Meredith and Lobato racing driver. We're not quite sure what happened, but it has put him a long way down the order, and now he's got the gargantuan task of fighting his way on through from P38 in the final race of the day. James Vasquez-Gow at P39, and he'll be your last finisher on the lead lap. But as our drivers make the way into the pit lane, Mikey Doble, of course, making it 2 out of 2 here. And, well, it has been some time since we've seen the Doble Sim Racing driver take back-to-back victories. But as he once said in an interview, whenever he's taken pole and the win in the first race of the day, it has meant, and this is a track record with Mikey Doble, he will take all 3 wins based on history. And can he do it? That's the question. Neil Ferrier, double wins in the Prime class, and the 4XR Ferrier Sim Racing driver definitely putting himself at a high standard there from the outset. And further back, Matthew Cheverton did in the end finish P7 in the Prime class, P20 overall, and that means the Aztec Racing driver has achieved his best result of the season, having to fight off lap after lap Rafael Lobato, Luke Jones, Mark Sykes and Phil McDougall, but in the end he got them all to fight one another, and with that he'll be absolutely pleased. We can see that Aztec Racing all forming up together. They know their man has achieved something special today, and well, they're going to escort him into the pit lane, and you love to see it. But ladies and gentlemen, with that, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and well, here they are. In race number 2, it would be Mikey Doble who'd make it 2 out of 2 for Doble Sim Racing overall in the Pro class, with Adam Delman for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport fighting to a second place ahead of Andrew Pike, who fell off a little bit towards the end, but still held on to P3 for the Sim Racing Collective ahead of teammate John Higgins Jr. Another P3-P4 combination for the TSRC pair ahead of Prime winner Neil Ferrier, who makes it 2 out of 2 in class of 4XR Ferrier Sim Racing, and then Benjamin McCluskey a further 3.5 seconds behind for Next Gen Racing Yellow, taking P6 and runner-up in the Prime class. GRT Esports Andrea Romi keeping McCluskey honest all the way to the end there, P7, ahead of Josh Millington for the Sim Racing Collective on his debut, making it a podium in the second race of the day, P3 in the Prime class, and then Gavin Garner for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport and Martin Shirley for RD Simsport complete your top 10. Best of the rest, Daniel Harmer for Bright Esports there in P11 ahead of Michael Lees, with Marco Benatelli, Marcello Reles and Melvin Erkison completing your top 15 in what was a very bare-the-knuckle battle between the trio. And then James Holman a further 1 second behind in P16 for RD Simsport and trying to make a little bit more progress in this race. Sam Smith P70 for iRacing Esports, head of Isaac Doble, with then behind them the pair of what was Jamie Dorey and Matthew Cheverton to complete your top 20. And then Rafael Lobato just missing out on the top 20. P21 there for Meredith and Lobato Racing, head of Luke Jones and Mark Sykes. Mark Sykes being in the final potential position for reverse grid pole in P23. Phil McDougall P24 with that battling cost him dear towards the end of the race, and Linus Broström P25, head of Wayne Douglas. Then Joseph Doe and Jonathan Collins coming home close together there, P27, P28. And Daniel Fritz and Nick Clibbins round off your top 30. Paolo Maniti P31 in a difficult second race of the day, but he'll be looking forward to the final race of the day. Then Lee Horn at P32. Luck not being on Lee Horn's side in either race so far. And then Reese Watt, Paul Scott and Damon Mulqueen completing your top 35. Then Costa Canton Antonio able to make the end of this race. The technical issues not ruin that ugly head once again. And finishing P36, head of Jake Pitt P37 and Alex Meredith. And as we can see on down there, James Vasquez-Gal, the last finisher on the lead lap, P39, head of Gabriel Yilmaz, the first of our finishers at least a lap down. He was 1 lap down alongside Michael Kurtler. Alan McCain also a lap down, P42. And then, well, in fact, we only had 42 drivers in this one, not 43. And that's how they all finished, ladies and gentlemen. But congratulations to all the drivers on their performances. And of course, now, just before we head to another brief break for race number 3, you know what time it is, folks. It is time for us to do the reverse grid draw. Well, as we cut to the commentary booth, good evening to you. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the racing thus far. To just quickly take you through the format, of course, in the official Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl are the numbers 6 through to 12. I'll very shortly close my eyes, shuffle the balls and pull 2 out of the Lottery Bowl. The numbers we get, I will add together, and that will be our reverse grid position for the final race of the day. So here we go. And our first number will be drawn. And our first number is, it's going to be a high one. It's number 12. So this is going to be a very high number potentially, unless we suddenly get 6 out of the Lottery Bowl. But I'll close my eyes once again and shuffle. And here we go for the final draw. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have got the maximum. It is P23 that gets reversed with 11 to go with the 12. And well, as I try to turn the balls there, not good with my hands, that means that it will be Mark Sykes who starts on pole for the final race of the day. Him battling for that position has worked out to his advantage. And who is going to come out on top come the end of it? It is going to be our biggest reverse grid of the season thus far. And well, we all look forward to it. And I'm sure you do too. But we'll be back in approximately 7 to 8 minutes time for the build up to race number 3. Don't go anywhere. You will not want to miss it. I promise you. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for the build-up to the final race of the day. Race 3 of 3. It's the reverse grid race, and with a top 23 inversion, that means it is now going to be the ultimate spectacle that we've come to expect from this season. Our top 23 from race 2 have been inverted, and that means that it will be Mark Sykes who starts on pole. And as all our drivers get set, it will mean that a lot of drivers will find themselves out of position. And our race winners, such as Mikey Doble, who you see in the background here, well, they'll find themselves having to come through the thick portion of the field if they want to try and make it another win. Indeed, for Mikey Doble, the change will be to try and make it 3 wins out of 3, and his work is cut out for him. There's a definite guarantee on that. But anything can happen in these races, and of course, these are the races that we sometimes see our drivers really get the bare knuckle and elbow out racing come to the forte, and it is going to require some aggressive moves if you want to come through the field with only 13 laps on the table. But it's not just for the double sim racing driver there, of course. Also for Neil Ferrier, he'll need to try and come through the field if he wants to make it 3 wins out of 3 in the Pro-Am class. Alternatively, as we see there, the YouTube chat, him saying, this is where my night ends, and the grimacing face emoji there as we get it right the 3rd time, and we're feeling that the challenge is on. But also as we say hello there to Mega Caffers in the YouTube chat, who is cheering on across the Chatsacontinentino. I don't know where all my voice and speech has gone, ladies and gents, but I'm finally finding it once again. I think it's the excitement of all the racing as we're about to go once more. And well, meanwhile, for other drivers who've had difficult races, such as Michael Kirtland, the Aztec Racing T2 machine, we've been in a bit of a scrape there with another car, and I believe that may have been with, well, not with Reese Watt, as Watt makes his way on down. Well, I think Reese Watt has been caught in an instant because the car jumps across there. The Vidal chicane, so it's gone very wrong for a number of drivers. It also gives an opportunity for some drivers who would not normally find themselves battling with the fastest driver in the field to try and hold them off or fight the way on through. And of course, Mark Sykes, your pole man. And well, the Next Gen Racing Blue driver, I can imagine he's been given some words of encouragement from his Next Gen Racing Blue teammates, but definitely he'll find himself in unfamiliar territory. Indeed, you'd have to go a long way back to the last time Mark Sykes took a win in a Next Gen Racing official series, and I do believe that was at Daytona in the GT3 League all the way back a year ago. But indeed, very proud of that moment. And will the 666 driver be able to try and bring home a win today, or at least can he hold on to a podium in the Pro-Am class? That will be his target. But as we do wait for our last couple of drivers to join the lobby, I can see that we do have the Costa Chatsacontinentino fan club started to play out Give Me a C and Give Me a H, which is great to see. And well, he's not quite at circuit side at the moment, but as soon as we do see him, we'll pan over to him for you. But meanwhile, as we do see what is here, Daniel Holmer making his way through turn number 7 and up towards 9 and 10. The Bright Esports driver finds himself fighting hard with pros and proms around him throughout the entirety of the first 2 races. It's going to be more of the same for the Bright Esports driver, but as the checker flag comes out on this warm-up session, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to make our way to the grid for the final time today. So as our drivers make their way to the grid, this is how they'll line up for race 3 of 3. Is the Pro-Am pair of Mark Sykes and Luke Jones on the front row, with Rafael Lobato and Matthew Shepperton behind on row 2. Row 3 goes to Jamie Dorey and Isaac Doble, with row 4 consists of Sam Smith and James Holman, and then we'll have the pair of Melvin Eckerson and Marcello Reles completing your top 10. It's in on row 6, Marco Benatelli and Michael Lees, followed up by the pairing of Daniel Holmer and Martin Shirley on row number 7. Row 8 goes to Gavin Garner and Josh Millington, with row 9 consists of Andrea Romi and Benjamin McCluskey, and then the top 20 or the top 10 rows being rounded off by Neil Ferrier and John Higgins Jr. On row 11, it's Andrew Pike and Adam Delman, followed up by Mikey Doble and Phil McDougall on row number 12, and then behind them on row 13, it's the pair of Linus Brostrom and Wayne Douglas, followed up by Joseph Doble and Jonathan Collins on row number 14. The top 30 completed on row 15 by Daniel Fritz and Nick Clemens, with row 16 going to Paolo Maniti and Lee Horn. Then on row 17, it's Reese Watt and Paul Scott, followed up by Damon Mulqueen and Costa Chatsacontinentino. But that's the grid set, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for us to go racing, and here are the lights. On red lights, rear lights, forward lights, forward lights, forward lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the final race of the day, and it's a good start for Mark Sykes. He launches the Audi well and heads it down towards turn number 1, well clear of the field as they make their way down towards the braking zone. But meanwhile behind, Matthew Shepperton under major pressure as they come on through and on to the anchors for the first time. Jamie Dorey trying to get involved as well. Dorey knows he's got to make progress early if he wants to try and hold on to the positions later in the race. Rafael Lobato the same, as they all come through 2 and in towards 3. Now it's going to be the big stockade of cars, 3 wide here with James Holman in the middle. going around the outside, that's Marcello Reales. On the inside, that's Sam Smith. And as they break the way through turn number 3, Holman's going to lose the 2 places for a brief moment, but he'll be okay. Karloff going sideways at the back, that's Benjamin McCluskey. Josh Millington there being involved in a bit of contact with what I believe was Andrea Romi. And as they all make their way down towards turn number 5, most drivers have survived, no safety cars so far. As they come on down, Millington and Mikey Doe battling side by side into the turn 5 hairpin, and Doe making a couple of places early on, up to P20 already. He's trying to cut through the field as quickly as he can. But as they make their way up towards turn number 6, there Millington being elbowed wide, but meanwhile looking from them back up towards the front of the field. Well, Mark Sykes is breaking away already, 1.3 seconds clear, and Matthew Cheverton right now really going to be the cork in the bottle, with Rafael Lobato right behind him as they come through the kink of 8, up towards Vidal they go. Lobato there looks to the inside, Cheverton's going to pin him, as they make their way on towards the braking zone. Cheverton holds firm, and behind Isaac Doble there under pressure. Meanwhile, going deep, that's Sam Smith, who overextends his braking zone and goes the long way round the houses at Vido. Well, that's not the race tonight. He'll have to give the place and the time back. He's already given the place, he's going to have to give the time. But meanwhile, onto the brakes they go, and it's a long pack of cars now, 2 by 2, into the braking zone almost for the Hyundai N curve. Daniel Homer on the inside there versus Michael Lees, and the pros are all trying to pick the way through. That way they can get up towards their fellow counterparts. They fight past the Pro-Ams. But meanwhile, behind there, it's not all done yet, with John Higgins Jr. covering off the inside line, being pushed along practically by Ferry as they make their way down towards turn number 1. Long line in front, but meanwhile it's 2 by 2 under braking here with what is Homer trying to go around the outside of Leeds. Meanwhile, Higgins Jr. going up the inside of Homer, and the Bright Esports driver from Sweden loses out. A bit of contact there between Ferry. Oh, goodness me! And there's contact there. Daniel Homer turns sideways, catches the car, but it's going to put him a long way down the order. He gets it back together though. Great car control there. Meanwhile, oh, goodness me! And where on earth is the car? God, that's Neil Ferrier who's gone off the road in the scramble under braking into turn number 3. And we'll take a look back at what happened to Neil Ferrier very shortly, but it's gone wrong there for Ferrier, no question about it, as they come down towards turn number 5. As they head towards the braking zone here, Wayne Douglas being passed on the inside by Mikey Doble. Doble up to P15 and continue to make headway. Meanwhile, Linus Brostrom here win all the carnage coming through turn number 3. That tyrannical chaos, I should really say. Brostrom now started to bury his fangs, looking up the inside of Pike through 6. Going to be on the outside into 7, onto the brakes they go. And as they come on down here, well, Brostrom's going to have to do it the long way round if he wants to make this move count. And in the end, I think he's going to be made to go high in the exit curve and not have the momentum. We can see a little bit further behind there, that's Jonathan Collins having a fight versus Andrea Romi, as he's trying to hunt down also what is there Nick Clemens. The 2 pros battling for P9 in the Pro class, with the pro of Romi just watching on. Jonathan Collins goes up the inside, he goes very low at the brake. Oh, goodness me, that's Lee Horn taking a bit of an escapade across the grass, and when he brings the car back together, avoids contact, and Lee Horn doing very well to prevent that car turning into a bowling ball, if you will. But meanwhile, behind, we've got Phil Maduwe trying to battle his way around the outside of Smagsgate Gal as they come through turn number 1 and up turn number 11, and down towards 1 they go once again. But meanwhile, as they make their way down the start-finish straight, just behind Reese, what Costa Choscan are battling there side by side, coming down towards the opening corner. And well, right now, you can see there the Audi RS3s both going at full pelt as they head towards the braking zone. But who's going to come out on top here in the battle between the 38 and the 28? Well, it's going to be the 38 of Reese. Well, gets ahead, a bit of contact there versus the back of Mulqueen's car. Mulqueen making some gradual progress up to V32 already, and Chats Continental already back down to P34, albeit Watt in the way. And right now, Watt missing the front bumper. I think there's been a bit of contact there earlier on that we haven't seen, but as they make their way down through turn number 3, meanwhile we look from them back up towards the leaders, and Mark Sykes still leading on the 3rd lap here, albeit Rafael Lobato has found his way past Matthew Cheverton. So I think now the inevitable is going to come in terms of that overall lead is going to go a different way. But for Sykes, I think at this point he doesn't need to worry about Lobato. He just needs to let him go and then run his own race, because he has got a 2-second gap, almost 3 seconds to Cheverton. And if he lets Lobato go, he can manage that gap. They've been equal on pace all day today in qualifying in the races and the data we've got. And therefore Sykes right now could find himself in a very comfortable prime lead for the remainder here. But meanwhile, further behind, James Humman wasting no time hunting after one is Jamie Dorey, who's in P4 overall as he goes up the inside there. Luke Jones does Holman for P6 overall, and he's trying to chase down 2nd place in the pro class. Meanwhile, there up the inside is Melvin Eckerson. This is battle for Pro and P4 as they come from the right hand, and Eckerson on the inside. It's going to be a simple move, and he gets it done. But now Jones will try and come back in. Of course, it's a Lancia versus Audi. Me on the inside. That's going to be Reales, who just parks himself there. I think he's trying to say to Jones, well, look, I want a piece of this action now, as they make their way down towards the Yokohama hairpin. And onto the brakes they go. And as they do, Eckerson, they're just being missed by it. Reales coming in hot, and Reales gets it done for P8. And the VRGT Racing Team driver making another smooth move, but meanwhile, looking from them to a bit further down the order, James Vasquez out here on the outside of Lee Horn. Lee Horn recovering, of course, after that run off of Vidal. Meanwhile, going deep, that's Nick Clibbins, who's on a slow down for his misdemeanors, and as they come through turn number 2 and in towards 3, Vasquez here trying to come back at Lee Horn into the braking zone for the tight left-hander. Can't quite find it, but Lee Horn does overextend the apex. It's going to set him off and offline on 4, but as they come out to the right-hander, now they stay as they were. Lee Horn holds on to his P10 of the Prime class, P25 overall, but behind Damon Mulqueen trying to pick up another driver, this time trying to pick up Palamaniti on the inside down the brake lights flashing in anger as they come on out, and it's going to be another place game of decision for this racing car as they head up towards turn number 6. We've still got plenty of battling behind, including Paul Scott trying to pick his way past fellow Audi driver of Reese Watt. One Audi that's not got damage versus one that has got a lot of damage by the looks of things, and will right now Reese Watt the faster of the two without the damage on the cold. I think Paul Scott's got some aero damage given the way that bonnet is looking. It's not pointing in a straight line, but as they make the way on through, meanwhile 3 wide there between Clibbins, but Dougal and what is Maxwell's Gal, with Maxwell's Gal falling back there on the exit of 8, and meanwhile Clibbins takes the places, but Dougal there gets it slightly wrong, tap to the grass, tap to the rear of Clibbins' car under braking, and well, they all survive it for now, but a very hairy moment. Jonathan Collins meanwhile going a bit deep there. He's had to take a slow down as he makes his way into the final corner, but meanwhile from them to the front of the field, Rafael Barto going round the outside of your race leader of Mark Sykes. It's going to be a run to the inside here into turn number 2, and well, as he comes on through there, Sykes right now lets it go. He doesn't force the issue. Well, Sykes loses the overall lead, but Lobato now I think will try and break away as Sykes goes deep there into 3. He's going to try and come back. Interesting, Sykes is trying to play this out. Lewis doesn't want to give up. I think right now his focus really needs to be on the 3-second gap he's got to Cheverton in P4, and that's the threat to the prime win as they make their way down towards turn number 5, coming all the way on through and up towards the next corner. Meanwhile, we have got a little bit of an incident going further back, and as Marco Benatelli is falling down the order, he's been involved in a shunt in the Mercedes arena, but meanwhile Wayne Douglas missing the front bumper up the inside. Linus Brostrom, that's going to be very bold under braking, and will he be able to get it done? I think he is going to, but Brostrom is not one to back out, and the two of them in a bit more contact. They're really rubbing their elbows now. Brostrom goes deep there. We've got a car going sideways, and that was Jonathan Collins having a little bit of a moment. Wayne Douglas there, battling now with what is Daniel Holmer. Holmer clears him, and I think the damage on the next gen racing with Douglas Motorsport car definitely now started to stack up as they make their way up towards Vidal chicane. But meanwhile, looking from them to a bit further down the order, Paul Scott here in a battle side by side with Palamaniti, albeit stuck in behind there, coming through the kink to before Vidal, but behind them you got McCluskey and Mulqueen. Onto the brakes here, Paul Scott all in. He's going in for a penny, in for a pound, as they say, and he's going to take a pound's worth of a manoeuvre there as he goes up towards P30 and gets it done, and that's P15 in the prime class. They head in towards the final corner. Mulqueen defends on the inside here versus Maniti, who he cleared into Vidal, and as they make their way out of the corner, Daniel Mulqueen now holds on to P31. But as they head down towards turn at number 1, they head towards the halfway point of this race. What's lap number 6 of 13. Next time around, we will clear halfway distance, and as they make their way down, no safety car so far, but we do have an opportunity to do it. Is take a look back at what happened to Neil Ferrier on the opening laps. And this was lap 2 as he came on through, and as he made his way through turn number 2, I believe it's going to be contact here as the number 5 turns in, and that's what happened to Neil Ferrier, getting turned there by the 5 of what was, excuse me, number 5 of John Higgins Jr. I think an innocent bit of contact there. Neil Ferrier and John Higgins Jr. both in the right place at the wrong time. Oh, goodness me. A very rejoining there to the path of the 26 of what was Gabriel Yilmaz, and I think that was it for Neil Ferrier as he had to be towed to the pits after that nasty shunt. But as they made the way on down here, and meanwhile up towards turn number 6, back to your live pictures now. Still plenty of battling to unfold, including Matthew Cheverton, who of course after picking up his best performance of the season thus far, now it's Mikey Doble trying to square him off for P8, and Cheverton digging in here, and with the Aztec Racing driver is currently P4 in class. If he doesn't fight this, he will then have Luke Jones coming up close behind him. So I think for Cheverton, he's got to try and keep Doble behind as long as possible. Doble is not being given an opportunity to make this easy, and remember right now, Mikey Doble trying to make it 3 wins in a row here today, albeit he is 8 seconds off the leader, but he has got a lot of pace at the fingertips as the Doble Sim Racing driver in the Elantra behind. But Cheverton here pinning the car to the inside. He's going to make Double go all the way round and force a cutback move. Meanwhile, behind them, we've also got Garner versus what is Jones. But we can see as Cheverton defends the inside, and Double there being made to go all the way deep. And will Cheverton definitely get his elbows out as they come into turn number 2? And he's not giving up. It's Matthew Cheverton, fantastic defending, but he overcooks it there through 2. Understeer creeps in, Double on the inside. And I think this could be it as Double now gets the nose ahead, coming through 3 into 4, and it is going to be P8 for Mikey Doble. And now Matthew Cheverton has Luke Jones right behind as we jump on board with the JW Motorsport Audi in the 211. Now onto the brakes here, of course, Luke Jones will feel as though he has got the edge versus Cheverton. Relative pace has said that Jones is the faster driver of the 2, albeit when it comes down to actually battling, it's a different story. Of course, these 2 have not really battled one another this season thus far, but as they make their way out turn 6 into 7, onto the brakes they go. And will Jones here trying to get the best possible exit? This is where the Audi will be able to outclass the Honda all the way out towards Vidal. It's close, he's within 1.5 tenths as they come through the kick. Continue to push up through the gearbox. In fact, not in the Audi here, we should correct ourselves. He's in the Elantra, and as he makes way towards the brake zone, he switches the inside. He tries to go for it. It's going to get very close on the brake, and if he commits, in the end, Jones backs off, taps the rear of Cheverton's car there as they make the way out, and now heading up towards turn number 11. Well, it's great to have you with us there, Nat GB. And to quote what you said there with regards to this electrified battle between Cheverton and Jones. Meanwhile, Gardner's on the inside as they exit turn number 11, and with that little stumble coming out of the Vidal chicane means that right now Gardner's going to have to really put the run in here, and this is where the Elantra and the Audi will be equal because they don't really reach 6th gear on this straight. They go up to 5th, and that's it. Onto the brakes there, Gardner on the left of your picture, Jones on the outside. Meanwhile, Cole going in very deep under braking. That's Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective who gets it wrong and almost puts one in the rear of Jones, but as they make the way through turn number 2 and in towards 3, will Pike manage to get the car restored, let Millington go in the process, and now as they head down, well, Jones still there, Gardner's still there. They're not giving up. These 2 right now, they're battling as if this is the win of the championship, and as they come through turn at number 4 and up towards 5, Garner is there on the inside down towards 5. I think he'll finally get this done, but Jones has not made this at all easy for him, and why should he? As meanwhile Michael Lee says, well, if you're going to go deep into turn 5, allow me to introduce myself, and Michael Lees just steals P5 in the prime class there, no doubt about it. That's daylight robbery if I've ever seen it, and as they make the way out turn 6 into 7, Lees from Next Gen Racing Yellow just showing how crafty he can be as they make the way out to turn number 7 and up towards 10. And now he finds himself at the head of a pack of 3 primes, which includes himself, Jones and Millington. They're going to be battling for P5 in the class all the way to the finish here. And will Lees have to go defensive, you can see there. Meanwhile, Millington a bit close behind. Contact between Lees and Jones. Both of them testing out the width of their cars. And as they come out of Vidal, meanwhile, Millington here is going to try and dive up the inside of Jones. Well, Millington here just sees an opportunity, much like Lees did at turn 5 earlier in this lap. Oh, Millington being pushed towards the wall there by Jones turning in. In the end, Jones gives him the space to breathe. I don't think Josh Millington's going to be too happy with the fact he almost ended up being mated with a tyre barrier. And as they head down towards turn number 1, it's going to be the Elantra that gradually gets the other speed. But look at Pike, he's pushing his teammate along here, trying to get Millington ahead as they break their way in. Meanwhile, on the inside, that's Joseph Doble. And 3 does not go to the space at 1. And Doble there backs off as they make their way out the corner, holds the outside line to 2. And as they come through turn 2 down towards 3, well, Joseph Doble tried to go for it, but in the end had to play it safe, and I think realised that they were all going to come together otherwise. But as they come through turn number 3, meanwhile, we have got, what is that, Adam Delwood and Martin Shirley trying to come through as well. Right now, Joseph Doble wants to make some ground because he's got a whole host of pro drivers behind, and they're all itching to make progress as they make their way down towards turn 5 once again. You can see again it's Pike versus Jones, and Jones here, you've got to feel for the JW Motorsport driver. He's now being forced further and further away from the primes he wants to race for the simple reason he's got a hungry pack of pros behind, and none of them want to give him another opportunity to fight. But meanwhile, speaking of hungry prime drivers, here's Reece Watts still chasing down Paul Scott. They're battling for P28 overall and what is P13 of the prime class. They've got Benjamin McCluskey and what is there, Damon McQueen in front of them. Damon McQueen being the sole pro in this group as they make their way through the left-hander of turn at number 6. And right now, everybody trying to pick place off one another as James Mansell gets it all sorts of run code through 6, putting the car very wide. And as they make their way out to 7 down towards towards 8. Well, Sebastian Scout at this point is going to be under pressure. We're hearing Isaac Dole's had it off track at the Vidal chicane, and that has cost him a number of places. In fact, we're just trying to get an update on what exactly's happened there. But meanwhile, we have side by side here between Sebastian Scout and Mulqueen. Mulqueen on the inside, Sebastian Scout on the outside. 2 wide in, it's going to be 2 wide out, and as they emerge, they both survive at Mulqueen. They've been pushed lightly to the grass, and Sebastian Scout will hold the position for now. Meanwhile, Benjamin McCluskey up the inside. He tries to take the 2 of them here as they come through the Honda in curve, and the next generation yellow driver may just get this done with 4 more laps to go. As they head across the line, you can see their flashing lights from Sebastian Scout. He's not happy with this, but Paul Scott's not done either. Oh my good lord! And there's contact between the 2 of them, and it takes with them Reese Watt as it's a three-way collision. They're down the start-finish straight. And well, I hope all the drivers are okay, but they will gradually clear the circuit by looks of things. But a nasty shunt between the trio, and well, with that, we're going to have at least 2 going into the pits. In fact, Paul Scott and James Sebastian Scout have both been towed to the pits already, and I think it may only be time before Reese Watt experiences the same fate. But as he tries to bring the car back together, a nasty one between the trio, no less. And well, meanwhile, Melvin Eckerson here trying to keep Mikey Doble at bay, as Doble trying to look for a way round, and he can't quite find it at the moment. And Eckerson holding on to P2 in the Prime class, P5 overall. He wants some more overall points, but I think Doble's going to push him down a bit here as they come down towards turn number 9. And will Doble switch it back to the inside, but he's not close enough, and Eckerson just simply holds on for now as they come on through at the Vidal chicane once again. But meanwhile, further back, Martin Shirley here trying to make a move on Linus Broström, and they've come together, and Shirley there on the brakes immediately, and I think realising what's happened in terms of the fact that 2 have come into contact, and Linus Broström now will fall down the order after what's looking to be a great race for to end the day, and how a different whole week could go between Long Beach and where's the Nürburgring. But meanwhile, still plenty of rounds to go for here, and I think there is a bit of contact there, unfortunately close and hard racing. But meanwhile, 3 more laps remaining, and as we look here down the start finish straight, this is Jones versus Delbon, and well, Luke Jones, of course, the driver who right now in the pro class has got every pro in the world who wants to come past him, but having to fight hard for every place. He hasn't got any probes near him for a long time, so right now I think he's enjoying the fight, albeit fight for P14 overall and still P6 in the pro class as he comes down through the Mercedes arena. On the inside, that's John Higgins Jr., and well, there's a bit of contact. It looks a bit as though there's a bit of netcode contact on the back of Jones's car, because the car was just suddenly kicked around there at short notice. So I think Jones will look back at that one and be incensed there with the connectivity of what's occurred. But meanwhile, Higgins Jr. clears both Delman and Jones, and well, that battle ends in a hurry. And as they come out to turn number 5, meanwhile, we look from them to what is your race leader. And well, whilst it's all frantic behind, it's absolutely peaceful for Rafael Lobato, the Meredith and Lobato racing driver. 2.6 seconds clear, but he's your pro leader and overall leader. And then here's your prime leader of Mark Sykes. And right now, with a gap of what is 6 seconds to Melvin Atkinson behind, I think it's going to be a Pro-Am win in the bag, so long as he doesn't make any errors here. Sykes just needs to keep the car on the road for what is another 2 laps. And I can imagine right now the Sykes family down the pit lane will be absolutely cheering the father on as he makes his way down towards turn number 1 once again. And well, meanwhile, whilst we do have a brief moment, we're going to take a look back on that incident involving Paul Scott, James Vasquez and Reese Watt a couple of laps back. In fact, it went very wrong then. We're only just seeing what was the start of it. We will try and take a look back at what kicked off the incident as they made the way on down. But I don't think we are going to get that, unfortunately, as in the end we can see that when Paul Scott came on through it and Palamaniti just coming into the scene of the incident. So unfortunately, we're not quite able to get the full replay. But as we look back to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, 1.5 laps left, and well, battles still plenty inside the top 10 and out of it, including what is Matthew Sheraton here being given the elbow by Gavin Gardner. And well, for Sheraton now, he's fighting for P3 in the prime class, and the problem is he's now got Josh Millington behind him, as we see there what is, I do believe, Michael Lees going very slowly. So Lees has had a bit of an erroneous run out to turn number 4. Further contact there, and Andrew Pike drifted sideways. I think Lees in contact with him, but as they make the way up towards turn number 6 and 7, right now it all stabilises for a brief moment. But coming back to our point from only moments ago, Matthew Sheraton could be on course to pick up his first podium of the season. All he's got to do is hold off Millington for 1 more lap after this one, but Millington extremely fast. Sheraton not in his pace pace by comparison, but Shepperton has one thing that he has proven to us today, and that is he knows how to defend in that Honda. He has made that car wider than the circuit on occasion, and as he comes through Vidal for the penultimate time, he'll now know that the pressure is on to the checkered flag, albeit Millington's going to be there on the inside. I think this is going to break the hearts of Aztec racers. They come through the final corner to go onto the final lap as they make the way around. Millington there on the inside. Meanwhile, it's going to be, what is there? And Shepperton on the outside in the drag race down towards turn number 1. And Will Shepperton here having the better run. He's trying to squeeze Millington to the wall as much as possible. He knows here he's got to do everything in his power. He wants that podium, but Millington wants it just as much. And as they come down towards turn number 1, Millington gets it past an apex. And I think with that, the move will be made. And the Aztec Racing Machines now battling for P4 in class instead as they make their way down through the Mercedes arena. As they come down towards turn number 3. Meanwhile, further back, we've got Daniel Holmer and Wayne Douglas. Oh, goodness me, and a bit of a side swipe there from Martin Shirley coming into turn number 2. Well, no love lost between the RD Sims and Bright Esports drivers today, as we see Holmer trying to do the reverse on him into turn number 3. Contact there, and Holmer being sent wayward from it. That Honda being made of stern stuff as they make the way out of 4. Phil Madul just behind. Definitely get a bit scrappy further back, but as they make their way down towards turn 5, I think it is now tied arms and legs, and also a little bit of frustration early on the race starting to kick into overdrive. But as they make their way through 5, meanwhile we look from them to up towards the front of the field, and here, oh my good lord, and Mark Sykes and Rafael Labarto have come together, and well, this is on the final lap, and for Sykes he's got to try and get the car turned, but this is late drama, and Rafael Labarto with a car that's wounded, he enters the final corner, and James Holman comes on around. I don't believe it. It's going to be James Holman who takes the win, literally corners to go, and the RD Simsport driver takes the checkered flag with Rafael Labarto P2, Jamie Dorey P3, Mikey Doe P4, but Melvin Erkison will snatch the win in the prime class with literally a corner to go for Bright Esports and a Mark Sykes who's denied his maiden win in the prime class in NXTCC. P6 there for him, Marcello Rez P7, Gavin Garner P8, Josh Millington P9. To round off the prime podium ahead of Joseph Doble, Matthew Shepperton at P11, and then it will be Andrew Pye at P12. And as the field makes round through, I think we're going to get a replay of what on earth happened right at the end there, because that was completely unexpected. Linus Broström P26 had a Palamaniti, and then it will be a little bit further back. Battle to the end here between Michael Kurtler and Costa Continentino as they come out the final corner. It's a drag race to line between the Audi drivers, and I think it will be, what is that, Continentino who holds on a P31 just ahead of Kurtler, and then we will very shortly, about 20 seconds later, have Jonathan Collins coming on through to complete his race as he heads towards the timing line. But as he comes out to the right-hander, the number 33 makes its way, and the P33, it will be for the 1-2-3, I should say, Alan McCain P34 as he creeps the line there on a car that's wounded, I think. And then our final finisher of the day will be Gabriel Yilmaz. He heads up towards the final corner, and the Aztec Racing T2 driver will clear this race on the lead lap in P35. We have had a number of drivers finish a lap down, if not more, but I think what we're going to be doing immediately is taking a look back at what exactly happened going into the final couple of corners as Yilmaz completes his race and everybody else has finished their race in return. And we do have an immediate replay of what happened to Mark Sykes and Rafael Labarto. Was under braking here into the old chicane, and contact between what was Daniel Holmer and Mark Sykes. Now, well, not Daniel Holmer, my apologies, James Holman, but let's get that right. And well, the two of them coming together there, very close on the mark between them. But as we take a look back from Holman's perspective, I think Holman would argue he had the right to align and was squeezed there under braking. Well, either way you cut it, that's definitely, I think, one that will go to the steward post round. Labarto very fortunate to get away with that and survive to P2, and the RD Simsport driver James Holman taking the win there. I can see already James Holman's argument, I can see Sykes' argument, but it has definitely gone the way of James Holman on that circuit. And well, for Rafael Labarto, I think he'll be fuming at the fact he's just been denied by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And well, what a dramatic end to race 3 of 3 here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. But as our drivers all make their way on down the round, it has been a thrilling conclusion to the racing. And well, let's take a look at those race results subject to any steward's inquiries. James Holman then taking the win for RD Sim Sport by 1.1 seconds over Rafael Lobato for Meredith and Lobato Racing, and Jamie Dorey round off the overall and the pro podium for Next Gen Racing with Douglas Motorsport. A top three separated only 1.1 second in the end, with Mikey Doble at P4 there for Doble Sim Racing, bringing to an end the legend of if Mikey Doble takes pole position and the winning race number 1, he's guaranteed to win all 3 races. Wasn't quite able to make it through to the win, but still a valiant drive from P23 to P4, no question about it. And then Melvin Erkison takes his maiden win of the series in the Prime class for Bright Esports ahead of Mark Sykes, denied the win but still takes his maiden podium and P2 of NXTC career. And indeed for Next Gen Racing Blue driver, I think there's going to be a lot of frustration, but at the same time he'll look back on it and think, you know what, you did the job right to finish on the podium. Marcelo Reyes P7 there for VRGT Racing Team, ahead of Gavin Gardner for Next Gen Racing Douglas Motorsport, and then Josh Millington completed a run to P3 in the Prime class, P9 overall for the Sim Racing Collective, meaning that he put together an absolutely brilliant string of performances, and it was a Prime podium of Erkison, Sykes and Millington. Joseph Doble P10 there for Doble Sim Racing, ahead of Matthew Cheverton at P11, best of the rest there for Aztec Racing, and Matthew Cheverton as well, a huge round of applause for going one step further in race number 3, and meaning his best result of the season is a P4 in class at a P11 overall. Aztec Racing are going to be absolutely proud of him. And then Andrew Pike, P12 there for the Sim Racing Collective, just not quite able to make the progress in this final race of the day. Adam Dillon, Michael Leeson, Andrea Romi complete your top 15. And as we continue to look down, P16 for Luke Jones there in a battling race from start to finish with the pros around him for the JW Motorsport Prime driver. And then we can see was John Higgins Jr., Isaac Doble, Wayne Douglas and Martin Shirley completing your top 20, with P21 going to Daniel Holmer, just ahead of Phil McDougall P22, Benjamin McCluskey P23, holding Lee Horn at bay, and Damon Mulqueen at P25. Linus Brostrom there, fighting hard, but difficulties mid-race in the battle, and he finished P26, ahead of Paolo Maniti, and then Jake Pitt P28 there for Aztec Racing, ahead of the pair of Nick Clunes and Daniel Fritz to complete your top 30, and then Costa Chatscontinentinu completing P31, just ahead of Michael Curtler there. Between the two of them, it was only what was 2.5 hundredths at the line in that drag race, and then Jonathan Collins P33 ahead of Alan McCain and Gabriel Yilmaz. P36, a lap down at James Mansgesgow for Aztec Racing after that late incident on the start-finish straight, and the same for Neil Ferrier there, P37 ahead of Paul Scott. And as we conclude the standings, Reese Watt P39, 3 laps down, much like Paul Scott, ahead of Marco Benatelli, who finished 6 laps down and therefore will be classified as the finisher as he completed half the race distance. And then Sam Smith and Alex Meredith completing the finishing positions there, albeit both, I believe, early retirements from the race and therefore will be classified as did not finish. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our racing for today, and what a race it has been to wrap up. Indeed, there was drama at the end, but also brilliant battling all the way through. And again, as we head into the mid-season break, the racing may stop for now, but we have definitely left it on a dramatic high, and we'll have to look forward to seeing how it all plays out going into the second half of the season. But where are my manners? We're not quite finished yet with today's broadcast, of course. The racing may be complete, and we've seen the side from the broadcasting cameras, but what did our drivers have to think about the racing from their perspective? Well, we'll find out in our post-round interviews in approximately 10 to 15 minutes drive. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is now time for our post-round interviews with our selected drivers. And today, we're going to be hearing from 2 primes and 2 pros. We'll be hearing initially from debutant Neil Ferrier for 4XR Ferrier Sim Racing, who had an absolutely brilliant set of performances with what was double win, followed up by a difficult race 3 to conclude his day. Then be hearing from Michael Lees, the 55 NXTGEN Racing Yellow driver, who battled hard to finish well inside the top 10 in all 3 races in class. And then we'll be hearing from the pros of James Holman from RD Simsport, of course, batting from what was outside the top 10 initially into the top 10 gradually as the racing went on, and then taking the win in the final race of the day, albeit in a bit of late drama, which he was at the centre of. And then we'll be hearing from Mikey Dole from Double Sim Racing in the pro class, who made it a double win. And we should correct ourselves from earlier. He didn't achieve pole in qualifying, missed out, of course, to the Bright Esports machine, and therefore it does mean that the legend carries on. But we start off with none other than Neil Ferrier, and he does join me in the interview room now. Good evening to you, Neil. Can you hear me?
Can hear you fine.
That's brilliant, and welcome to the interview room, Neil, live on air. And well, let me say congratulations to you on your debut in the Prime class. 2 wins back to back. Third race didn't quite go the way you wanted it to, but it looks as though you've had a great start to your NXTCC campaign.
Yeah, no, it's good to be. I actually raced with these boys quite a while back in the Legend. So when I seen they were running TCR, I was like, "Okay, I'll jump in and give it a go." No, it was a good first night, to be fair. Not raced a TCR in a league in God knows how long. It was good to be up there mixing it with the boys as well. To be honest with you, I was quite happy just to get a top 10 in any of the races.
Oh, indeed. And what a way to start off, of course. In qualifying, it was a P16. Looked very close out there with the entire top 30 separated by 1 second. And you found yourself right in the middle of it. Take us through your qualifying session.
Qualifying wasn't too bad. I kind of had a plan in my head for getting halfway through the session and then changing the fronts to get a bit more front end grip with that to see if I could go a wee bit faster, but it never worked out. And I was quite happy to be somewhere near that, and to see how close the times were was I think half a tenth would have put me somewhere near the top 10 as well. So I'm quite happy with qualifying. I've lost my touch a bit with getting these cars off the line, so I just kind of knew I had to be safe into T1 because it is it is tight. And obviously with cold tyres and cold brakes, it's pretty hard to get it stopped. So being in the mid pack's not ideal, but it's I stayed out of trouble, which was the main thing. And I think I made up a couple of paces off the start of it, so I was quite happy with that.
Oh, most definitely. It was a smooth start to race number 1, and you very quickly started to make more and more progress towards the front of the Prime class.
Yeah, the race 2, it was to be fair, I kind of knew what I was looking at when after race 1, because obviously you need to get a full race under your belt to kind of figure out your pace. So when I got, I think it was P6 in race 1 to then start P6 in race 2, I got an alright start. Managed to get myself up to 4th, and just kind of sat behind the leaders. But to me, I wasn't really in the fight anyway. If I got past them, they would have passed me later in the race. So I was kind of just sitting there, trying not to get in the way of it, because obviously they guys are fighting for the overall championship, and I'm not really in it because it's my first night. So I was like, I'll behave myself and no go ridiculous and try and fight these guys because I don't want to be causing issues on the first night. So I sat behind them, learned quite a bit off them, especially that last chicane. I was struggling in the last chicane through practice and qualifying. Managed to pick up a few things for Mikey and the guys in front in race 2. So I kind of try to take that forward into race 3. But we'll not talk about race 3.
Or indeed, and as we've just seen the aftermath of the incident in race number 3, it was an early end to what was a great run through the start of the race, and it seems as though you're caught out a little bit in the Mercedes arena.
Yeah, I don't really know what actually happened. I've got the replay saved, so I'll need to go back and have a look at it. But there was a muddle up going into turn 2. There was a couple of guys facing the wrong way across the circuit. So I managed to avoid one of them, and I think it was John that nearly ran into the back of when he gathered his cell up as well. And then I looked to my left and Mikey Doble was up the inside as well. So I was like, right, I know it pinches quite close to the braking zone down there. So I was like, I need to leave Mikey a bit of space. And yeah, might have just moved over a couple of, like a wee bit too far for John, but obviously John was coming in as well. So I don't know. We'll have a chat and see what happens with it. But yeah, and as for the rejoin, it was just I looked at my relative, there was no car there, and then the next thing you know, there was a car there, so I don't know if it was maybe a connection issue on my side for the rejoin. So, nah, I do apologise to the boy that I pulled it right in front of you. That was, it's not how I race, and I don't like to do that. So, yeah, big apologies to him.
Well, indeed, it was an unfortunate moment on the rejoin, but still not to undermine all the positives you've taken from today. And of course, with it being your debut, a number of top 10 finishes right up there, mixing up with the very best in the field. It looks as though the Hyundai Veloster goes well with your driving style.
Yeah, to be fair, I used to race TCR quite a bit with, funnily enough, James Holborn. I used to be part of the RD Simsport crew, and we raced TCR quite a bit there. So I used to drive the Elantra, funnily enough, and I was like, okay, well, I've raced that for a season or two, so let's try the Veloster. The Veloster's got it's got as good and its bad bits as all cars do. Uh, for me personally, I struggled with the fronts about 10 minutes into the race, but I managed to control that a wee bit better as the night went on. Uh, I just seem to have a wee bit of a better punch out the corners compared to the Elantra and the Honda. So, nah, I'm quite happy with it, considering I only really signed up for the league today, and I think I only done a handful of laps in practice as well. So, to get into that and get, I think it was a couple of top tens, and a P6 in race one and P5 in race two. I can't really complain at that. The aim was to be inside the top 10 for all the races. And I would have been quite happy with a top 10, but to finish that high up the grid in race one and race two, I'll take it as a positive night. I know how the guys race now. I raced with quite a few of them before, so aye, let's roll on to the next round.
Indeed, and speaking of the next round, Alton Park's Island layout will play host to our drivers, yourself included, in 2 weeks' time. How are you feeling to a visit for the British circuit?
I quite like Auckland, funnily enough. I was just in there a couple of weeks ago for British Superbike, so aye, it's going to be it's got to be good fun. It's got to be close racing. It's one of these circuits where you have to be committed to a pass. If you don't commit to a pass, then it's a big issue for everybody else. So it's one of these circuits where it's a thinking man's place for passing. Uh, so yeah, it's got to be tough, but I'm looking forward to it, especially getting mixed in again and seeing where I can end up. Like I said, I've no raced TCR at many of these circuits for quite a while now, so and I'm looking forward to it. It's always good to have a British track on the circuit. Unfortunately, it's not Nottinghill. I think I would have had a good chance around Nottinghill, but nah, Oulton Park's a nice circuit as well to race it. It's got everything that you want. It's got some fast corners. It's got some slow corners. It's quite a technical, flowing place, and if you can link it all together, it's probably one of the best tracks on the server, to be honest with you.
Well, indeed, and while we have featured Knockhill in previous seasons, you never know, it may come round in the rotation at some point, but still at the same time, we look forward to seeing you take to Alton Park for round number 6 when we return after the break. But just before we let you go, Neil, is there anybody you'd like to give a thank you or a shout out to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, just obviously 4XR. I was in their Discord while I was racing, and they were keeping us up to date, watching the live stream as well. So big shout out to them. Obviously, Casey Motorsport, always been a big part of my racing, both in real life and in the sim. Uh, and also a big well done to Mikey Doble on his results, and all the best to him for his next round at BTCC as well.
Well, Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations once again on your spectacular debut, and we look forward to seeing plenty more from you when we return from the mid-season break. So hearing there from Neil Ferrier, who and taking us through what has been definitely a debut to remember for the Pram driver after a superb start in race number 1, followed it up with a top 5 in race number 2, and really talking it in terms of the relatives of battling with the very best in the field. And as we see him parked up on the pit lane there after his incident going into the final race of the day, the incident on lap number 2, a little bit of a means to undermine what was a fantastic debut performance, but keeping in mind, of course, that he's very young in the series, you can imagine that the Pram driver may end up in pro come the next round. We'll have to wait to see what the stewards do decide going into the second half of the season, but either way, he's going to be cutting it with the very best, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on at Alton Park in 2 weeks' time. But as we now come on to our next interview, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be hearing from Michael Leese, the number 55 driver, who definitely also had a day to remember with regards to the battles up and down the field, and whilst he went gradually backwards in class, at the same time he was right in the thick of it from start to finish, and he gets ready to join me now, and we get ready to hear his perspective on what have been 3 races for him to remember, and they could be championship defining. But as he does join me now in the interview room, Michael, well, it's been a difficult start to the season, but today I think you can say you've ended the first half of the season on a high. 3 top 10s in class, and what were 3 top 15s as well, and a qualifying lap to remember. You must be pleased with how the Nürburgring has played out.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I've been waiting for a result like this whole season. I had a couple of nightmare weeks, like the last 2 weeks out. Last week especially, I think I started the third race in 36th place last week, and I did gain 23 places, but yeah, it was it's not been one to remember. And then this week, finally, I got a good position on the track in qualifying. I got behind. I knew that Adam and the NXTGEN, whatever colour team they are, I can't remember now, and the Dorey and all that, they were all drafting each other down, and I knew they were going to do something, so I was like, right, I'll wait for them to come round, I'll jump on the back, and I'll see if I can get a tail around, and I did, and it pulled me right up there, and yeah, it's amazing how different the race is when you start up near the front.
Oh, indeed. And coming from qualifying to the race, of course, qualifying P7, P2 in class, and well, you are one of the faster drivers in the Pram class, it must be said, and you made it count in the first race of the day. A relatively frantic start, and it looked as though you were always chasing Neil Ferrier from start to finish.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the beginning, I was actually leading it, I think. I got past Ben. Was it Ben who was in front of me? I think it was. I can't remember now. But I got past. I got into the front of the class, and yeah, I tried to overtake. I think it was Andrea Romi into the hairpin, and I thought he would just sort of like yield, but he didn't. He tried to hang it out, and then he got a slow down. He pushed me off onto the grass, and then I ended up in 3rd place in class. So maybe I should have sat behind him, and maybe I'd have got the win if I'd have done that. But it's not as exciting to watch if I do that, is it? So I went for it. But yeah, I mean, in the end, brought it home in 2nd, and I was chasing. The gap was coming down. Last lap, I was right behind him, and I did think about just sending it into the final corner, but I thought, nah, you know, take 2nd. It's good points. It's good points for the championship. Good team points. Just take 2nd, and you know, and see if I can maybe do something in the next race.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of the next race, finishing a little bit further back in P12, P4 in class, but it seems as though in race number 2, you got your elbows out and you really mixed up with every pro and prime you could encounter.
Yeah, I like a good scrap. Was it 4th? I thought I was 3rd in that one. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm sure it was 3rd. But yeah, I had fun. I like getting my elbows out. Everybody was like clean, you know, aggressive, but you know, clean, and it was amazing racing today. Amazing racing. I had so much fun. Yeah, and I don't know, 3rd or 4th, I'm not sure which one it was, but yeah, I was happy again to take the points for the championship. You know, after having a couple of nightmares, it was like, yeah, okay, this is gonna bump me up, and it was, what's his name, Linus Brostrom. It looked like he was starting to run away with it a little bit. So yeah, hopefully I've clawed that back a chunk.
Oh, indeed. And with regards to that third or fourth, we'll have to wait and see how Josh Millington is evaluated going into round 6, because we did have it in the Pro-Am classification. That's why you'll be classified as P4 currently. But, of course, that could change during the mid-season break. But either way, of course, gaining ground on Linus Broström, and now making your way into race number 3, a top 23 reversal, the maximum possible. And it meant that you found yourself pretty much starting where you finished in race number 2.
Exactly where I finished race 2. Yeah. I was a little bit disappointed you pulled such a big number out, to be honest. But you know, it is what it is. And yeah, again, you know, we got the elbows out and we had a good little scrap, and yeah, it was fun from start all the way to the finish. I don't know. I think I finished like P6 maybe in class, which again, you know, it's good points. Another top 15. Really can't complain. It's been my best week so far. I've had an absolute whale of a time.
Oh, indeed. And I must say, as we're looking back at the replay cameras of your car, I can't see a single body panel on that Elantra that hasn't got some sort of bump or scrape in it. And that's not to say you weren't driving badly. That goes to show how hard you were fighting all the way through. And definitely a deserved trio of top 10s in the Pro class there. And of course, mid-season break now. Championship campaign is definitely on a rise. And Alton Park beckons in 2 weeks' time. How are you feeling for the British circuit?
So, I think it's up in the air whether it's actually going to be Alton Park, isn't it? Because of the number of grid slots available. So we'll have to see about that. If it is Alton, I really like Alton, but I have a feeling it's going to be something else. I have a feeling it's going to be a different British circuit. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. I'm not sure which one it's going to be. Yeah, we'll find out in not too long with that one. But yeah, whatever it ends up being, you know, I'm game. Like I say, game on. Championships coming back to me. So if I can just keep it clean, if I can keep my qualifying going, because that's the thing that's been hurting me badly, is qualifying badly. So if I can keep the qualifying up and stay near the front somewhere, then hopefully we can have a few more good results and maybe scrap for the championship overall. Not overall, but, you know, a Pro-Am championship. So yeah, we'll have to see how it goes.
Oh, indeed, but we'll keep watching with interest and look forward to seeing how you get on in round number 6. But just before we let you go, Michael, is there anybody you'd like to give it a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
So yeah, first of all, my girlfriend, now she says that every snore is a cheer, and if I just listen out, it sounds like she's been cheering pretty hard at the moment. So that's good. So thanks to her. Also, Costa Hadjikon-Standinu. That's how he informs me how to say it. Okay, Hadjikon-Standinu. So that might help you out later. For having a nice chat with me in the waiting room. I want to thank my team. I want to thank my rival team at the NXTGENs for giving me a tow and pulling me up to 7th in qualifying. And I want to thank all the sponsors. And of course, Paul, yourself for your, I'm sure, fantastic coverage of this race, which I'm going to go and watch back pretty much straight away after this.
Well, Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you in the interview room as always. Congratulations on your trio of spectacular results today, and we look forward to seeing you out of the circuit in 2 weeks' time, wherever we may be.
Thank you, Paul. I'll see you there.
Have a great evening. So hearing there from Michael at least, the Pro-Am driver today, who really has found that his championship campaign is back underway. After a difficult start to the season, and in his own words, of course, at Long Beach, having to fight his way through from outside the top 30 in race 3 to battle into the top 10 and come the end of it. Well, now it's all coming back together, and what a time for it to do so, because of course he goes into the mid-season break now with momentum on his side and a championship campaign that's been revitalised. He may not be championship leader going into round number 6, but one thing's for certain, I think he's got the confidence he can be leading come the end of the season. And will the NXTGEN Racing Yellow Drive be able to achieve that ambition? We'll have to wait and see when we come back in 2 weeks' time, where we can carry on from where he left off. But now coming on to our third interview of the day, And very shortly be hearing from James Holman, the RD Sim Sport driver, who's recently joined the series as of the previous round. And as we get ready for him to join us, it has been a challenging day for James Holman, but one I think he's loved every step of the way, batting hard inside the top 15 in all 3 races. And race number 3 really coming alive, albeit marred by a little bit of drama, but we'll get to talk to him about that as well. But as he gets ready to join me now, in fact, he does join me in the interview room. Good evening to you, James. And well, what an evening of racing from yourself and the RD Sim Sport team as a whole. You all looked as though you're getting right in the thick of it out there, but for yourself, it was battles aplenty from race to race.
Yeah, it was a frustrating night, but then I suppose I can't really say anything. I did no practice. I joined halfway through qualifying, so yeah, it was. The racing is fraught, shall we say, in the midfield, and I ended up on the wrong end of it a few times, and then obviously race 3 was interesting how it finished, and not the way you want to win a race, but yeah, sorry to those involved. I don't think it was. I looked at the back of the replay. I did think it was my fault. I thought Mark just turned across my front a little bit, but I guess that's racing. But it's not the really way I wanted to win a race anyway.
Well, indeed, unfortunate, and we will come to race 3 at the end, but still, whilst being in the thick of it from start to finish, qualifying saw you make it to P15 on the grid, and with the top 30 of the field being separated by 1 second, you pretty much were slap bash in the middle of it all. How did qualifying go for you?
As I alluded to earlier there, I did no practice, and I joined 5 minutes into qualifying, so hadn't turned a single lap, so it was kind of just trying to learn. I've never driven the Honda around Nürburgring, so I was trying to learn where the braking points were and everything in 10 minutes. So qualifying was a bit of a venture. I think if I'd had a tow, I probably would have picked up another 2 or 3 tenths, which, with how tight the field was, I probably would have put me in the top sort of 5 or 6, which would have put me at the firing line, which would have been quite nice. But yeah, so qualifying wasn't great, but it was okay considering the lack of practice, and yeah, and then it was like you say, when you're in that smack bang and everyone's so close on times, it's always going to be hard work to get through.
Oh, indeed. And speaking about how that translated into race number 1, we saw multiple moments where there were 2 free wide involving yourself, and indeed a regular rivalry in the form of some of the bright esports machines. It looked as though the Honda was very strong on the brakes, but just didn't have enough on the straights.
Yeah, I think I picked up a bit of damage. I know the first lap anyway, me and Alex tried to go side by side through the chicane, Alex Meredith, and unfortunately, where we went side by side, it gave me a slowdown. Must have been a fractional thing. I didn't feel like I gained an advantage or anything, but 2.5 seconds slowdown on lap 1 is killer when you've got so many cars in a close sort of space. So I ended up sort of dropping probably all the way back to 23rd, 24th, 25th, something like that. So to come back to 15th was okay. It was good fun, and so I let Martin back through for an extra championship point because he's got a bit more skin in the game than I have. So it was nice to be able to play the team game a little bit with Martin there, and so shout out to him. He's obviously doing a nice job in the championship overall. So I'm only here to do races when I can, so it's be part-time going forward. So yeah, hopefully I can help Martin more as the season goes on when I'm able to race.
Well, you may be a part-time and a great team dynamic there from RD Sims, but I can tell you one thing, it was full-time battling again in race number 2, starting P15 on the grid, finishing P16, and you found yourself coming against some regulars from race number 1.
Yeah, I think it was Ben Natalia. He sent it from I think he sent it from Hockenheim, to be honest, in the first quarter, and he sort of ended up on my inside making a bit of contact with me, and it put me into the side of Alex, and then I was the meat and the sandwich, unfortunately, at that point, and I picked up quite a bit of damage. The steering was off 30 odd degrees, so I was lucky not to get a meatball, I think, looking at the damage what I had in the car. So to come home, I was just sort of concentrating on trying to put myself in the sort of run for the reverse grid. Wasn't sure whether I'd be, you know, lucky enough. And obviously, as it turned out, it was a full grid, so reverse. So it kind of worked out in the end. I knew I had actually a decent pace considering how bent the car was. It was quite good, but it's just a bit frustrating. Again, a bit of a case of what if I'd, again, a bit like last week at Long Beach as well. If I nailed qualifying, and you know, if you nail qualifying, it makes your whole evening so much easier. You know, so I think if I'd have, and look, I can only blame myself for that. But you know, if I nailed the qualifying, then the first two results would have been far different, I'm sure.
Indeed, unfortunate, but still, you made the most of what came your way, and then, like you say, with the full reverse grid, promoted you up inside the top 10 for the gridding procedure of race number 3, and it seems then it was all on to try and charge down and take a podium finish.
Yeah, I mean, I was very happy. I mean, I was taken aback by how aggressive some of the driving, how aggressive some of the defending was. I guess my mindset would have been in that situation, you know, try and run the quickest race possible. But some people were defending as if their life was on it, which is obviously their own right to do. And yeah, it was harder to get through the field. But I got through okay in the end, and then. Yeah, I was like, got Jamie let me go for the P3, and I was trying to chase down Mark there, and I got to him on the last lap, and then obviously what happened the last lap, yeah, doesn't sit well with me, but you know, I say unfortunately, I don't go racing to make contact, but it was just one of those where, look, I was trying to get down the inside, and I was wary of the fact that if maybe I should have given him another sort of half a car's width on the inside, but as he just come across there in the braking zone, it just unfortunately just turned him around. So wasn't my intention. I'm obviously very sorry for, I think, Raphael in the league, because he was a complete innocent bystander and all that. He was busy minding his own business, about to win the race, and then boom. So there's yeah. I don't really know what to say. It was one of those things. There was no intention on my part, and you know, I apologise to everyone in the series if anyone thinks there was any problems on my part. But you know, I don't go racing to race like that. So yeah, it's hard racing. It's very fought racing, and I say I enjoyed it. It was good fun. It's obviously the stress gets high, and yeah, it is what it is. I can't really say much more than that, to be honest. I don't think on that incident. I'm sure if the people that deem I was at fault, then I'll get a penalty. But if not, then obviously I'll take the win. You know, so we'll see what happens. But like I say, I'll try and support Martin when I can next time out, and we'll see where we go from there. Hopefully we can. Yeah, hopefully Martin can bring home the bacon Friday some sort. That would be good.
Oh, indeed. I think many tuning in will appreciate your honesty and your openness with regards to what happened at the end of race number 3. And a very good point there with regards to the fact it's such a stressful environment racing at NXTCC, with how close the racing is. And sometimes mistakes do happen, and those little moments. And like you say, we're all here to race, not to take one another off the circuit. And what has happened, but you can only move forward. And speaking of which, round number 6 in 2 weeks' time, we head to Alton Park, most likely, for the Island Circuit. How are you feeling for it?
I won't be around for that one. I've got a GT4 lead that night, unfortunately, so I won't be around. I think I'll be around for round number 7 if it's the following week. So, yeah, I'll be probably round 7 where you'll see me next. But it's a shame, because I love Alton Park. Alton Park's a great circuit, and especially touring cars. I mean, the heritage that obviously British touring cars has, and everything there. It's a fantastic circuit. It's one of my personal favourites on iRacing as well. So and in real life, I must say, I've always enjoyed racing around Alton Park in real life. Good fun, and yeah, it's a good challenge. It'll be a good challenge to see all the drivers. I look forward to watching the stream back when everyone's done their racing next week. Or I might, I say, if time allows, I might try and nip in for the last race or something like that. But I'll be just joining in from the back of the grid, so we'll see what happens. I say, see how the timings work out. But hopefully I might be able to sneak in for the race or something at the end of the day. But we'll see I'd say hopefully that's that. And then, yeah, I'm not sure what the calendar is after that. So round 7 will probably be my next full round.
Well, we do hope we can see you, even if it's just for one race at Alton Park. But if not, we look forward to seeing you return at the Circuit of the Americas in round 7. But just before we let you go, James, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Obviously, thank you to yourself. I mean, you must have no vocal cords left. You seem to just chat away all night. So well done to you, and obviously thank you to NXTGEN for providing the series, and obviously a big shout out to all the chaps and in RD SimSport, Rob, team boss. Sorry if I've given him a heart attack by winning a race the way that I did tonight, but yeah, no, and obviously a big shout out to Martin as well, to teammate in the series, and yeah, it's my wife, my mum, whoever, the dog, whoever's watching. So yeah, so hello to everyone, and yeah, look forward to seeing you soon.
Well, James, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you in the interview room. Congratulations on your performances today, and we do look forward to seeing you come back, whether it's in 2 weeks' time or the week after that. We'll eagerly anticipate seeing the RD SimSport Civic on the grid once more.
Thanks, Will.
Have a great evening.
And you.
So hearing there from James Holman, the RD SimSport driver in the 104 Civic, and really reflective on what happened with regards to the final race of the day. But let's not let that undermine the fact that throughout today, a difficult qualifying session with the fact he joined midway through really did put him in a difficult spot where he had to learn on the spot with regards to finding the pace, qualifying right slap bang in the middle of a top 30, separated by 1 second in total, and having to work from P15 in races 1 and 2. And I can imagine with the hard battling we saw, particularly in race 1, that saw him drop outside the top 20 to force his way back to P15, and then in race number 2 find himself battling for P16 from start to finish. It was intense, it was tiring, and then come at race number 3, well, at that point, of course, with yourself being on edge and frayed to the extent, mistakes are always going to happen, and it was unfortunate the way it played out at the end of the race, but as he openly said there, if the shoes decide it's going to be a penalty, then it's a penalty, and if not, he'll take the win, not the way he wants to win, and I think that is a fair assessment and approach to the racing. And of course, it's not the way we want it to go, but that's what happens when the racing is this intense, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time and to see how it all unfolds with regards to the post-race penalisation. But also on top of that, we look forward to seeing Holman back out on circuit, whether it be towards the end of the race at Alton Park, alternatively in round number 7 at the Circuit of the Americas. Because I'm certain that with his ethos of focusing and working with his teammate Martin Shirley, it's definitely going to be fireworks down at RD SimSport for all the right reasons. But as we come now to our final interview of the day, we're hearing very shortly from Mikey Doble from Doble Sim Racing, and hearing his perspective on what has been 3 races of great fun and batting from start to finish. And well, he's been waiting patiently for the entirety of what is the best part of now 45 minutes. And I always do feel for the last interview, of course, because they do have the latest interview. But as he gets ready to join me now, we'll get to hear his perspective of what has been some absolutely brilliant driving from the Elantra driver. Well, as we do, just get the confirmation that he's ready to go. He does join me now. And Mikey, good evening to you. And well, it's absolutely brilliant to see you back up there on the top step, not just once, but twice today. And it looks as though you're right back in form in the Elantra. How do you feel the race that Germany has gone today?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a rough couple of weeks, so to speak, in this series. So it's nice to turn it around with a couple of victories. My first wins of this season. And also to prove to myself that we can get it done in this Elantra. I've had my doubts about it in many a time in the opening 4 rounds, but now we found a sweet spot with the car tonight, and it was nice to be at the head of the field again.
Oh, indeed, and well, not quite at the head of the field necessarily for qualifying. P2 being deprived from pole by literally a hair's width on the final qualifying laps. I have to wonder, did you think it was all said and done for pole position?
Yeah, it did catch me by surprise a little bit in the dying seconds, but my memory serves me correct. It was the same story last week as well at Long Beach, where I was on pole for a while and then someone snatched it from underneath me in the dying seconds. But no, I think a front row is as good as pole, really. I think, especially out of 43 cars, you can't really complain at that. But yeah, it was was all about the start after that and getting a good getaway.
Indeed, and then come race number 1, we saw a relatively slow start from yourself off the line. The Elantra still proving a bit of a difficult car to launch, but may have had a slow launch, but you then launched into the attack and fought back hard.
Yeah, that's what I've been struggling with all season with this car. It's one of its biggest flaws is that it doesn't get off the line very well, and I've tried multiple techniques to try and get it off the line better, but I've come to terms with the fact that it's not great in first gear. I don't know if it's the turbo doesn't wind itself up quite as quickly in this car compared to some of the other cars, but it just doesn't get off the line well, so you've just got to keep that in the back of your mind. But as soon as the race got underway, I then realised that we still had the pace carried over from qualifying, unlike some of the previous weeks where I've carried the ballast. So I managed to make a couple of good moves and clawed my way back to the front without any contact, and then built the gap to take the win.
Indeed, and there were moments in race number 1 where we saw the pair of what was Andrew Pike and Adam Delmont in the Civics keeping close, but they never seemed to be able to find that final 5% to potentially make a move. Was it something that you counted on in terms of the matchup between the Elantra versus the Civic?
Yeah, I think that the Elantra is a tough car to race because I think it performs best when it's on its own and you can get into a rhythm, and then I think it's as quick as any of the cars. But sometimes when you're in a scrap and you've got to change direction a little bit faster and you're not on the optimum line, it's just a little bit draggy coming out of some of the slower corners. So once I got to a point where I didn't have to defend and I could just focus on my driving and carrying the minimum speeds through the corners, I actually got into a rhythm and was setting some really consistent lap times all within a tenth of each other. And then I think it was going to have to take a mistake from me to let anyone else in. But yeah, I was really pleased with the way that we kept to a nice rhythm in race 1 and didn't allow anyone else to attack.
Indeed, and then going into race number 2, a better launch off the line, and it looked as though you had control of the race after the first couple of corners.
Yeah, race 2 was a better start than race 1. And I can't remember if I ever lost the lead, to be honest, in race 2, but if I did, it wasn't for very long. And Adam definitely did keep me under wraps for a little bit longer in race 2. But we managed to break a gap from the rest of the field, which meant that we could kind of have a race of our own. And the gap never got more than a second, to be fair to him. So it was a very... we both went quicker than we did in race 1 as well, so it was a very fast race at the front. I think a lapped car on the last lap, unfortunately for Adam, kind of took him out of contention to launch an attack into the final couple of corners, but it was kind of between that half a second to a second mark for most of that race. So again, just a steady race, clean laps, not getting any slowdown penalties or off tracks, as it's very easy to do around Nürburgring. To keep the race director happy, and another win.
Oh, indeed. And then, of course, race number 3, always the interesting one with the reverse grid. And we drew the maximum of P23 out of the lottery bowl. And we do know how you like the greater the number and the thought of batter your way through the field. And you didn't wait until you started cutting your way through.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a myth, actually, that I like to come from very far back on the grid. I'd rather it be... I'd rather start pole, I think, but especially when I'm in the Elantra. But no, it was my only concern was to try and survive the first corner, which we did. I think everyone actually drove very well for those first couple of laps in race 3 to not cause more chaos than there realistically needed to be. So yeah, we picked up 4 places on the first lap, and yeah, I think the gap just opened up for me. I wouldn't say I was lucky in race 3, but I picked my moments well. Went for the gaps when they're available to me, and didn't take on any risky manoeuvres which could have potentially put me in harm's way to undo what had been obviously a great points night up until then. I think I used up a lot more of my tyre coming through the field than I did in races 1 and 2. So by the time I got to a bit of clean air, that was my car done really. I couldn't really push any further forward than P5 where I was for those closing laps, until obviously there was a bit of drama the last couple of corners amongst the leaders, which gifted me a place. So yeah, a couple of wins. P4 in the last race. I've gone from P12 provisionally in the championship to lead in the championship by 22 points, which I think is crazy, really, for a championship that someone can actually do that. But yeah, should be interesting now. Now I'll have full success ballast on the car, so I fully expect us to be down and outside the points paying positions for the next race at least.
Or indeed the swing with the success ballast that comes with it, and that's of course both the reward and the risk of success. And in 2 weeks time we come back for the Alton Park Island circuit. Presume we can get all the cars onto the circuit. How are you feeling for the classic touring car venue?
Yeah, if we get to Alton Park I think it would be great, but I have a feeling that they could be sending the haulers down south actually, to maybe to Brands Hatch or maybe even Snetterton, I think has been mentioned. But we do know it's going to be a British round, which I think is great because we've got the best tracks for touring cars. So I'm looking forward to it wherever it may be. And I also think that a track such as Brands Hatch or Alton Park with the flowing nature may help me in a sense negate some of the pain that's coming my way with the full success ballast, as opposed to a circuit that's got a lot of slow speed corners. But we'll see what happens. We'll try and stay out of trouble, which is not something I've done that well so far this season. But yeah, I think the field had cleaned up their driving standards a lot tonight for various reasons, and yeah, I think it's going to be a good one.
Well, Mikey, we do look forward to seeing how you can maintain that championship lead going into round number 6 when we return after the mid-season break. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a special mention to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, all of my family who are watching downstairs tonight, grandparents who are undoubtedly watching from their couches if they're still awake. Good evening, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, we've got another touring car event people I'm sure are aware of this weekend in real life at Snetterton, and it's back to the main championship next Tuesday evening. And thanks again for a great broadcast as always.
Well, Mikey, that's very kind of you to say, and we wish you all the best this weekend at Snetterton. Absolutely go for it, I'm sure you will, and congratulations on your trio of performances today, including 2 wins on the bounce. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you with me, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks very much, Paul. Good night.
All the best. So hearing there from Mikey Doble in the Pro class, the Doble Sim Racing driver find himself on top form today with a qualifying lap that was almost good enough for pole, but in the end had to settle for P2. But with the challenges, of course, of launching off the line, it was not going to be easy in race number 1, having to battle his way back from P4 to the win. But after that, in race 2, hooked up the launch by comparison and therefore was able to fend off the change for the lead from Adam Delmont and make sure to make it 2 wins on the bounce. It will then take a charge through the field to finish what was looking to be P5 overall come the end of race number 3 and started P23, but the late drama on the final lap inheriting P4, and for that, for Mikey Doble, it's now a provisional championship lead going into the mid-season break. It seems though the Elantra is starting to come to him, and of course with time and further practice this could be a championship campaign and a championship defence that comes with it that is fully alive and now looking to stand the test of the time of the second half of the season. But of course he'll go to round number 6 with maximum success ballast, and will he be able to hold on to the lead, or will he find himself once again being swung back into the pack? That'll be the change we pick up 2 weeks from now. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers, and we'd like to say thank you to them all once again. You just heard from Mikey Doble, the number 88 driver from Doble Sim Racing in the Pro class. Prior to him, you heard from fellow Pro driver from RD Sim Sport in the 104 Civic of James Holman. Our second interviewee of the day was the number 55 Pro-Am driver from NXTGEN Racing Yellow of Michael Lees. And our first interviewee was, of course, the debutant of number 91 Neil Ferrier for 4XR Ferrier Sim Racing in the Pro-Am class. Congratulations to all of them on their performances today, and thank you to them for joining me in the interview room once again. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, perhaps you're sat there right now wondering how you can potentially sign up to be on the grid for this series, perhaps in Season 4, and indeed we're already making initial preparations for Season 4. We've also already started to tease the calendar in front of the existing drivers, and we'll of course build up a further appetite, or perhaps you're interested in joining us on the grid for other ongoing series, such as the fixed Formula Ford 1600 series, our free series, recently introduced. Alternatively, the ongoing front-wheel drive Fridays Clio Cup series. Indeed, we've got two other series coming up later this year, including, and they're both in the summer, the return of the GT3 Championship and also an endurance version of the Proto GT3 Championship that's known and loved. Well, you can find out all about those series and plenty more about us at our official website, and that's at www.nextgenracing.co.uk. And well, as you head to our website, you'll see it appear on screen now, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. We have been hosting leagues for over 16 and a half years on PC and console, and we continue to go from strength to strength year in, year out, and 2023 is the year in which we're looking to expand our series, particularly on iRacing, but do keep your eyes out because we're also looking to bring back some series on Assetto Corsa Competizione on PC later this year potentially, and we may even have more in the pipeline. But if you don't want to go to our website, well, you can of course, as an alternative, follow us on social media, and that's our official Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing, and there you can find out a little bit more about us in terms of the things we do, not just on the virtual circuit, but also on the real motorsporting circuit, with a good number of our administrators and members being real-life racing stewards and also real-life racing drivers. We'd also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for this series, and that is, of course, Douglas Motorsport, their web address being www.douglasmotorsport.com, and Douglas Motorsport being the leading race team in driver development, which aims to give drivers a path of progression to LMP3 class racing, from karts to Ginetta Junior and Ginetta GT4, alternatively via British Formula 3. If you'd like to know more about the team who are specialists in British Formula 3 and Ginetta Cup racing, please do head to their website. But of course now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to have the mid-season break, and dearie me, I think my vocal cords need it, but we'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the continuation of the story of Season 3 of the NXTGEN. It will be, well, at the moment it's scheduled to be Alton Park, but we'll have to wait and see what it becomes in practice. But put it in your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back on Tuesday the 30th of May, and of course there's still plenty to be fought for, both in the Drivers' Championships and also in the Teams' Championship. They are wide open. The success ballast continues to bring our championship leaders back into the fray, and the only question is, who will be carrying the momentum from round number 5 into round 6? In the Pro-Am class, of course, Michael Lees now on a high and looking to charge down the lead versus Linus Broström. And in the Pro class and the overall consideration, it's Mikey Double who finds himself at the top, but he knows that the change that awaits him when the weight is added to the car. How they get on and all the other drivers get on in round number 6, we'll catch up with them in 2 weeks' time and find out. But until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.